faculty of Department of Media Technology, MIT Manipal, welcome you all to FUTURA 2022, an international virtual conference, theme being Advancements in Media Technology. Bob Talbot has very nicely said, teaching kids to count is fine, but teaching them what counts is best. This conference is aligned on the same ideology to exchange knowledge to accelerate the adoption of advanced media technology by the masses to make an impact on Indian and global AVGC industry. Let us begin the proceedings of this gathering by invoking the blessings of the Almighty. I request Ms. Megha, third year student of media technology, to present the invocation.
सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा।
Thank you for that beautiful rendering, Megha. So I now request our beloved HOD, Media Technology Department, Professor Dr. Amrutraj H. Krishnan, to formally welcome the chief guest and the gathering.
Can you see me?
No, sir, we are not able to see you.
My video is on, but okay, we'll start. A very good morning to all. Indeed, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome the stalwarts of media industry to FUTURA 2022 International Online Conference organized by our department along with AVGC Bangalore. I am sure that there will be plenty of takeaways for each of you from the experts. I take this opportunity to thank and welcome our beloved Sri Biren Gaur sir, President of ABAI, as well as our chief guest to this inaugural function. Welcome you, sir. I also welcome Commander Dr. Anil Rana, my director, in his absence. I feel proud to have with us Mr. Hans, founder, Scan 360 Studios Canada, Mr. Pete Draper, Makuta VFX Hyderabad, Mr. B.S. Srinivas, Secretary, ABAI Bangalore, Mr. Andrew, Global Director of Experience, The Mill, Mr. Rabindra Shah, Unreal Bangalore, Mr. Rajit Oja, CEO and founder of Party Night, the first metaverse platform in India. Mr. Vrinda Sood, Mrs. Vrinda Sood, CEO, Citrus In Solutions Private Limited, New Delhi. Welcome you, ma'am and sirs. I am sure your presence will be a turning point to the listeners of this conference. I also welcome Madam Shiji Sunil, Sri Ganesh Shetty, and my colleague, Mr. Devi Charan, who are the pillars of this conference. Without their hard work, it would not have been possible to have this program a reality. Thank you very much and welcome to this conference.
Yes. Thank you, sir, for that warm welcome. So symbolic to the manifestation of divinity and wisdom. So let us proceed for the virtual lighting of the lamp.
शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते.
Is she attending?
Yeah, so before we proceed, I would like to inform that we are sorry to inform our director, Commander Dr. Anil Rana, actually could not join because of some unavoidable, unforeseen circumstances. So we regret that. So yeah. So at the outset, so we shall have a ceremonial beginning to the proceedings with the inaugural address by Mr. Biren Ghosh, and I also request him to continue with the keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, come now.
The keynote address is at 9:30, right? So we should wait for people to join at that time instead of doing it at 9 o'clock, right?
Okay, sir. Okay. So till then,
If you
the
like,
inaugural address.
I will make some inaugural remarks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, a very warm welcome and a good morning to all of the students, the faculty members, and the guests that have joined this program. The name, the brand Manipal is really well known globally, and it is a pleasure pleasure and honor to be part of this program, which has been put together in order, I presume, to create a greater awareness about how media technologies are advancing, how young folks in this country can find a place amongst that ecosystem that is growing. Meet with experts from all over the world and share ideas and ask questions. I'm hoping that this will not just be a great collection of speeches and talks which are available online, but give folks the chance to ask questions and interact and figure out the future. I would just like to say that any conversation with regard to how and what media is going to do in the next year or 2 or 3 is at best it's a speculation.
Yeah.
David, can you go on mute because there's a lot of disturbance coming in? Yeah. I think there are some other people who have to go on. You need to mute everyone, right? So my point is that the media technology world, it changes every year or 2 years. Those of us who are practitioners in the field of digital media will know that the tools, the technologies, the software, the systems, they are constantly being innovated. And therefore, it's really important for us to ensure that we keep upskilling ourselves and keep making sure that new programs and new innovations will serve young people to get ready for the next steps. My keynote at 9:30 is going to touch upon many of those. I think in the conversations that we have had as an industry with MAHE MIT, we have been looking at what is the next bend on the road. What are the next set of courses? And our association ABI has spent the last couple of years and used the pandemic in order to create those programs, to create those new learnings that can be incorporated into what we pass on to the next generation of artists and technicians in media, right? So I would say that, when people talk of creativity, the word creativity is always missing from all the degrees that young people get in media. I think it should come in some form or fashion, but creativity is not limited, by software. Creativity is not limited by hardware. Creativity is limited by our own ideas and our own imagination. And I think one of the things that is very difficult to teach, but people should learn on their own, and we should mentor them, is to be able to give people the opportunity to grow those ideas. To how do you sharpen those ideas? How do you make things happen? There are huge movies, there are huge TV programs, there are a large number of new games, everything that's been coming out, and there is a very simple difference between success and failure, and that is the simplification of the craft. If you make something simple and wonderful, it strikes an arrow straight to the head and the heart. And you will see that it doesn't matter whether it's a 1 crore, a 10 crore, a 100 crore movie or a television series. It's the quality of the story. It's the quality of how people are coming together, hundreds of people coming together in one production, but almost like a team sport, making sure that finished product is going to be amazing. I would just like to say at this inauguration that the graduates that come out from any institution, including the very fine institution, Manipal Institute of Technology, they are not just going to be coming out of their undergrad program or their course. They need to be able to come out of themselves, right? All creativity and success in our industry is by learning from nature, learning from environment, learning from colleagues, and you need to come out of your own head and make sure that you bring that to the things that you have learned in any course or any curriculum. So it's really that the core and the foundations can be learned in an institute like MIT, but the practitioner has to make sure that his ability to listen, to absorb, and to deliver something which is spectacular is what makes a true artist for the future. So we're going to talk about all of those things, Devi, in the keynote, and I believe that 9:30 is the time we have circulated and published, so we can definitely regroup at that time. And also wishing this event a great success. I think the way Futura has been put together by the teams that worked on it is really great to see. People ask what do you do into conference? Why do they ask me? You've been going to conferences for so many years, right? So what should someone come to a conference for? You're going to sit through, I think, 9 a.m. till I think about 3-4 hours at least. But usually from a conference, you should try and take away one thing or two things, which will really help you to grow and to change and to make a better tomorrow. So I think we have lit a very important lamp, not just to start this conference, but for the hundreds or thousands of students that you have in your ecosystem to really take that as a meaningful learning into their own careers. So what I think we're going to do, of course, is to talk about technology. But the one thing that one should remember is that technologies change, but the substance, the structure, the style, and the principles of the story do not change. So it's really important, I think, to explore how the story is going to be interpreted with new tools and new technologies and new thinking and new ideas. And I think many of the people that are part of this program have done that, in an amazingly in an amazingly brilliant manner. And I think that those sharings will be really important for young folks. I would just stress on saying that when people come out with learning new ideas and new thoughts from wonderful institutions all over the world, they try and overdo what they create. And it's only with experience that it becomes simpler. So if you have a great animation project like Kung Fu Panda that we have made, or you're looking at a great film that like Top Gun Maverick that we did visual effects for, if you look for great games, like Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, or Grand Theft Auto that we have worked on, or a simple FIFA game that you do for EA. What is the goal of the technologist and the creator? Is to make sure that that the craft does not interrupt the storytelling. Your focus should be on the story, not wow, what a great effect that is, or what a great move that is, etc. Right? This is not it's not a fashion show, right? It's the interpretation of a story. So I think that's going to be something that the students can take away today, of understanding how to bring that quality to the substance, the structure, the style, and the principle of every story that they work on, whether it's their story or someone else's story, whether it's a Hollywood production or a Bollywood production or a South Indian film production. It doesn't matter. You need to make sure that your craft is not seen, but that the story actually connects directly with the audience that you are making it for. So I think that's going to be the exciting part of what we see today. The future lies in taking our industry to a much larger level. We currently are limited by the number of people that we have in India to do this work. There is roughly a potential growth of about 100%. Can happen in 1 year, it can happen in 2 years, it can happen in 10 years. It just depends how quickly we can bring talent into the whole thing. And talent is not learning software. And talent is not, just trying to do a show reel in 3 weeks or in 3 months. Talent is about developing the eye. Talent is about developing the skill set. Talent is about, it's the man behind the machine and the software that produces every frame of film, right? Be it a live action cinematographer or be it a person that does this virtually, using the tools and technologies. It is the development of the eye, the aesthetic, the ability to make something more simple and yet something much more beautiful than has been done before. So if you look at sequels, right, there will be many sequels of, say, Shrek, or many sequels in live action of Fast and Furious, or many successive films of James Bond. Actually, if you look at how the effects were created over time, you will realize that they are less obvious, not more obvious. They are more beautiful because they are blending much more into the story. And so I think there are some things that are not written in the manual, and the best people in this industry are the ones who read the manual between the lines and not the lines that are written. So we're going to explore all of that today, and thank you very much for this invitation, and congratulations to everyone involved in putting this program together. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful inaugural address. So in another 10 minutes, we can join back. So please, yeah, so please stay
Thank you very
tuned.
much.
Yeah, so we'll start in another 10 minutes. We can have a quick break.
Thank you.
Yeah, so till then, we have an introduction video on we have a video on Byte, so I'll just share that.
double door and so the sound is not there. But sound what happened? It is not coming. But it's not coming.
Beauty queen from a movie scene. I said, don't mind, but what do you mean? I am the one who will dance on the floor and around. She said,
It's the biggest facility in our country also. So thank you for being part of it.
Hello. I had the pleasure of visiting ABGC Center of Excellence in Bangalore. It's a fantastic idea. We've been thinking, talking of it, but they have actually executed it. It's one solid center, a place where so many things could be achieved. Such a fountainhead of technology in one location. So I wish them all the very best. And by wishing them well, we are wishing our projects, the present one and the future, a good success. Showing me around, it's a fantastic facility. I wish you do more improvements and make India proud.
gonna dance on the floor and around. She said,
It's the biggest facility in our country also. So thank you for being part of it.
Oh, 1 minute. So I welcome back you all. So you're able to hear me? Yeah, yes, sir. So I welcome you all back. So uh, I, I request Megha to introduce our chief guest, Mr. Biren Ghosh, to the audience. And I request Mr. Biren Ghosh to deliver the keynote address. Please, Megha.
Hello, Mr. Birendra Ghosh, Vice Chairman, CII National Committee on Media and Entertainment, and Country Head Technicolor India. He has been the country head for Technicolor India for over 13 years. He has taken this 107-year-old arts and science world majors India studio to an employee strength for over 7,000 employees. This makes it India's India by far the largest single hub for high-end animation, VFX, games, and computer graphics in the world. Mr. Biren is a thought leader and industrial evangelist prominently featured in all major animation markets and events across the globe for past 22 years. He is a futurist and strategist and recognized by government and industry as a mentor and visionary. He has helped build global recognition for the Indian digital entertainment industry. He believes talent development in the digital arts will create a socio-economic development across all genres and verticals. Technicolor is its brand, and their clients have won over 8 Emmy Awards for TV animation, 4 Academy Awards, Oscars, and a clutch of global awards like 24 Cannes Lions, 28 VES, 4 BAFTAs, the British Arrows, etc. These coveted awards are a fitting testimony to the cutting edge capabilities of his.
Just come here. You can just close your mic and you can do it here. So due to some technical problem, so I request Megha to do it from here. Yeah, just mute you.
Across all genres and verticals, Technicolor, its brand, and their clients have won over 8 Emmy Awards for television animation, 4 Academy Awards, Oscars, and a clutch of global awards like 24 Cannes Lions, 28 VES, 4 BAFTAs, the British Arrows, etc. These coveted awards are a fitting testimony to the cutting edge capabilities of his studio's team who partner the best of the best global clients, bringing Indian artists and talent recognition on the world stage. Mr. Baren has beyond policy for the animation and media industry at both center and state government levels. He is a long-standing president of ABAI, Creative Industries Association in Bangalore. Mr. Biren is a chairman for CII National AVGC Committee. He is generous for his time and is well known for his creativity, hospitality, and good humor. He is a prolific networker and has built a wide industry connect been active on social media and in various community forums. Mr. Biren is multifaceted and has passion for art, music, photography, wines, and spirits.
Yes, I now request Mr. Biren sir to give the keynote address, please.
Good morning, and thank you very much for the pleasure of delivering this keynote address.
So we are not able to hear you, sir.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Good morning, and thank you very much for the honor of inviting me to speak at the Manipal Institute of Technology's FUTURA 2022. It is my task to partner with Commander Dr. Anil Rana and make sure that we can bring to the audience. I'm getting a lot of echo feedback and some other.
Yes, so please unmute yours, sir. So now I have muted all other speakers. So is it fine now?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'd like to start by just saying that we are a very interesting industry, which is a combination of both creativity and technology. But more than that, I think we are very, very much a celebration of the human spirit that wants to tell its stories to the world. And the future today belongs to those who want to develop their creativity. And so what I'd like to do is to say that no matter which industry you pursue, the ability to visualize is increasingly becoming a very, very strong advantage that every young person should possess. Because we can see today from the landscape in India that there are people, in very, very large industries. The chairman, ex-chairman of the Mahindra Group, right, for example, many others who studied media technologies, but go on then to visualize outcomes in many, many other areas, right? So today, the tools and technologies with which we create film or television or games or animation are the same technologies that you will see in the institutions that design the next automobiles, the institution that designs the next aircraft. If you walk into a studio of an aviation R&D company, a French aviation R&D company like Dassault in Bangalore, you will actually think you have walked into our studio at Technicolor. Because what they're going to do is to use computer graphics to imagine and to invent and to innovate the next steps. So the media technology is basically a communication technology. And is there any industry that does not require communication? Of course not. So these technologies are creative technologies enabled by media tools that comes out from time to time, right? That come out from time to time. And this can be learned. We have not, for the last 75 years in this country, taught people to use creative tools and technologies to advance their professional and personal lives. And that has been happening now for the last 10 to 15 years. And if I was to look at India at 100 years, you are going to see the paradigm shift between where we are in 2022 and where we will be in 2047 with regard to how we assimilate the theory and the practice initially through the formal courses that can be offered by ABI, that can be offered by MAHE, MIT, but those are just the launch pads. And it's really important for then those folks who embrace these technologies to find how to interpret them. So let me try to make this simple. Media is about creating content, managing content, and delivering content. So without any effort on any of our parts, with the advancement of microelectronics and so many things that are happening with chips and technology, the delivery part and the access part is becoming fantastic. 5G, smartphone used to be 100,000 rupees. Now it could be 10,000 rupees, 7,000 rupees. So the access becomes amazing. So what you have to do now is to figure out how do you work in creating content. Creating content in the high end of animation and visual effects used to be, only the privy of very large companies. Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, all these fantastic leaders that have actually set the stage, right? And then you found a lot of production houses, like MPC and The Mill and Weta and many others that came into it. But today, that is happening. Like all technology, it can happen at an individual level. It can happen in teams of 10 people. It can happen in teams of 20 people. It can happen in any part of the globe, because that's what's happened. It's become, the tools have made it possible for anyone to create those fantastic outcomes. And so really, what we are focusing on, or I would like to talk today about to inspire everyone that is on this call, is that the creation of these technologies, the creation of content using these technologies, is the big idea that can create the opportunities for the future. So how will that happen, and where will it go? So currently, no keynote address is ever complete without a few statistics. So I'll just take 30 seconds, because after that it becomes boring. So we are currently about a 1.6 trillion rupee industry, which sounds very large, but actually in the global scale is really small. And that's because the price points here in India are much lower, right? You can get a channel for 20 rupees to 100 rupees. You can get Netflix for 199 rupees. You can get a lot of stuff for very little. So actually, if the same amount of money was being generated by the number of people that use Indian content and make up this 1.6 trillion, the amount in any other Western world would be 10 times or 20 times that amount. And the big driver of media in India is television and broadcasting, and now streaming, because 55% of all the revenues come from there. And as most of you know, I mean, the streaming story in India has really gone to an amazing height in a very short time, right? So whether you talk of Sony Live or Netflix or Z5 or Amazon Prime or Disney Plus Hotstar, we've gone from almost 0 to 350 million people that are today, on streaming as of last year, right? And it's growing at such a fantastic rate. And you've seen the number of programs in every language, in every genre. It's actually made things much bigger than it was when film. So films in different states in India and different languages have a few genres, right? So you'll see a lot of action films in the Kannada movie industry where I am. You'll see a lot of Bollywood has played a lot of romance. Shah Rukh Khan, running around trees, etc. But today you will see that the type of stories that are coming out are amazing. And what is making that happen? Especially stories about the outer world, of sci-fi, of thrillers, of various different genres. These are enabled by technologies that allow a person telling a story in media to go beyond what only the camera could do. So before you, even when you went to take, when I was a young guy and you went to a photo shop, a shop that took your picture, you could put a Himalaya behind you, Taj Mahal behind you, you could take a picture, etc. Right? Today, you don't need to do that. On your app on the phone, you can actually download some apps that can put you on a beach or in a hill station, etc. Right? So what is happening is that imagery, the creation of images, is basically becoming something that can be superb, of a very high quality, in the hands of everybody. And so today you don't just have content creators, you have influencers, and you have people in social media who are their own channel, right? It could be a chef making food. It could be a guy who wants to talk about, guy or girl who wants to talk about travel, and so on and so forth. So coming back, I think the the broadcasting space, the episodic space, is the big driver of the industry at this moment in time. Even the large projects that are now on the screen, right? You've seen in the last year there have been amazing successes of KGF2 and of RRR, and right now on the screen you have Brahmastra. These are driven by the ability to make money not just on the screen, but tremendously from the digital channels, and of course also the satellite channels. So this is a big driver for the industry. I would also go on to say that the digital filmmaking is allowing these things to become bigger. So typically, if you take the top 100 or 200 movies in the world, you will find that a significant portion of the budget is visual effects. It is a much larger budget. All the 100, 200, 300 top movies of the world, by budget I'm saying, you will find that visual effects is a much larger budget than the amounts paid to all of the stars and all of the talent that came onto it. So that is the opportunity that has been created in the Western world, that you are now also seeing come into into our country. And in order to do that, we need to develop the craft. So when people say, if friends and family and neighbors ask me, can I do some animation? Or someone says, can I make a visual effect? People may not know this, but every frame of film that is created in animation or visual effects has many different skill sets. And I think it is now coming to a time where we need to help young people to understand that these skill sets must play to the aptitude and the ability of the person. So a young boy or girl coming out from Mahe MIT might have a better aptitude to be a modeler, and somebody else might have a better aptitude to be a lighting artist. Somebody might be more technical and will be able to create rigging in a better way. So some things, we now need to understand that the sophistication of this industry is getting such that while we need to understand the core, the basics in the same way, what is the story, how is it delivered, what is the art form, right? What is the aesthetic, what is the use of color, how do you marry color and how do you marry the picture and the sound? What does each of these components bring? It's like making a dish, right? You need to know the recipe, but somebody will be better at doing something in that. So if you go to a hotel today, you will have a pastry chef who's better at doing something versus someone else who's good at, on the grill, and somebody else who's good at doing something, in a different way. So I think this is the sophistication of our craft that is coming in, and we need hundreds and thousands of each of them. If you come to our own studio, you will find that if you take modeling, there'll be more than 500 or 600 modelers, right? But within that, again, someone is specializing on character, someone is specializing on environment, someone is specializing on creatures, someone is specializing on different elements of what needs to make that really perfect. Because the same person that makes Godzilla is not necessarily the same person that can actually make a photoreal character that has to play the FIFA game, right? They require they require different nuances. And at the top end of the game, that is the specialization that one has to bring people towards. And so the other part that I wanted to mention is that all of this has become a big industry where India is producing huge amount of content for the Western world, for the international world, in animation and visual effects. It is 75% of the current industry and growing at 30-35% a year. But a wonderful thing has happened in the meantime in the last 5 or 7 years, which is video games. The video games is a local market. It happened because India suddenly had smartphones in the hands of people who are at home, and so lots of companies use the time to create a fantastic outcome. if I take, just to give you an idea, in June 2022, you have companies that have created many games and have. I'll just give you an idea. For example, a Bangalore company like Moonfrog, would have got 285 million downloads, right? Gamation Technologies would have had 850 million downloads. Moontoon 542 million downloads. Games to Win 279 million downloads. Candy Mobile 209. There are about 10-15 more, all of them being more than 200 million downloads. And that is telling you that people in India that did not play games before now play a lot of games, right? And these games are currently generating, something like 430 to 450 million, right? That's the number of gamers. 430 to 450 million gamers on mobile phones, right? What was it before the pandemic? 200. So you've seen a growth of, on 200 million, you're growing double in a matter of 3 to 4 years. It shows you what a huge market that is, and therefore what kind of content it needs to create, right? 40% of the money comes through the in-app purchases in the game. 60% of it comes through advertising in the game. Many of them are free to play, right? Getting people into that world. So there's an opportunity to create content today that is amazing, both for local market in games and of course now in the movies that you're seeing coming out, right, which have larger and larger budgets and are driven by the digital media technologies. But you're also seeing this huge opportunity where after all the work we do for the whole world, we currently are less than 5 or 7% of the world market in visual effects, right? So there's huge amount of opportunity to grow. I will end with about 3 or 4 key points to this group. Number one, who is going to make this growth happen? Right? Sometimes people say, oh, in international countries, the government is doing a lot of stuff. Someone else, industry says, I think the academic institutions need to create more folks. In the academic institutions, they will say that the industry needs to hire more people, and we can't find the big ones, of course, all find jobs, but otherwise people feel that there are many more students than jobs coming out. And this is not a confusing story. This story has happened before in many industries, many services industries, in the IT industry, etc. The simple answer is this: there is expectations, there are expectations, there is experience, and there is responsibility. So who is going to work in this triangle? The answer is everybody. So this year we had the honor of getting our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji to Devi, go on mute, please. Devi,
Yes.
go on mute.
Please unmute yourself, sir.
It'd be good if you go on mute, because that way I don't get the sound from your system.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. This year, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji was recognized and made a very, very important announcement that he's seeing animation, visual effects, games, and comics as the soft power that will help India to tell its stories to the whole world. And the finance minister, in her budget, said that the AVGC, the animation, visual effects, games, and comics industry, will be receiving the support and the stewardship from the government in order to make this a reality. And as a result of this, 5 ministries and people from the industry have got together over the last 3 or 4 months, because the national task force was formed on the 8th of April this year. And we have now finalized the submissions in 4 subgroups. So there's been a subgroup on industry and innovation, a subgroup on skills and entrepreneurship, a subgroup on higher education, and a subgroup on games. And all of these subgroups now have submitted what is going to become the national policy for ABGC, which we can expect in the next couple of months. But this means that there is a huge focus on academia, on institutions like MIT, on companies, like Technicolor and all of the industry ecosystem, on individuals who want to now pursue this and use this learning to do things in a higher plane than before. And that is where I think the collaboration between MIT and Mahe MIT and EBI is very important, because what we are looking at is how do you get people to embrace new technologies and tools. So I think it happens, there are three things that are driving us. Collaboration. We need to teach people how to work with each other, because I told you that every frame of film requires many different processes. So it's like a relay race, right? It's almost like watching a game of football or soccer, where people have to pass things to each other and then reach the goal. So it's very much the same in creating animation or visual effects. You need collaboration. The second thing which you require is capital. Now, there are two ways. One is there's a lot of private capital that has come in. There has been literally hundreds of millions of dollars that have been poured into this industry, in the field of streaming, in the field of games, in the fields in which we work. Every studio that comes up is a really expensive infrastructure, because by the time they put in the hardware, the software, the render power, the data center, the storage, this is a heavy infrastructure game. And the third is computing. So it's collaboration, it's capital, and it's computing. And when these three things come together, you can run media technologies of various type on it. I'm not going to talk about which tool is better than the other, etc., because the more people offer you, right, it's like a choice. We are now spoiled for choice. There are real-time technologies. There are the traditional technologies of how pipelines and computer graphics work has been created and is created, and there are many ways in which you can learn this. So the understanding the basics from an institution like an undergrad course is very, very important. But what happens afterwards is people need to keep upskilling themselves constantly. And that's where I am going to say that the government will probably create some kind of infrastructure to help scale training trainers, will help to create more startups, will help to create a policy that will drive initiative both at center and state. A model state policy, ABGC policy is going to be released maybe in the next week or two. So, and there are 5 to 6 states that are already, have had these policies. Karnataka has had this policy for more than 10 years. Other states, like Telangana and Maharashtra and many others, and Kerala and many others have already kind of taken that leap a few years ago. And the others are looking for guidance and so on to do this. And I think in the future, institutions like Mahe MIT can actually become a part of the many centers of excellence that we need to create in 5, 10, 15 parts of India in order to help drive this to the level that has been envisioned by all the industry stalwarts, and of course blessed also now by the government of India. So we are at a perfect time in 2022 to take that next big leap. And there are other things that are driving and informing this technology. So when the Center of Excellence was created here in Bangalore, in Bengaluru, what are we really trying to offer people? There is a fantastic mocap system. There are these amazing photogrammetry setups that we have created that allow people to leapfrog and make things in a different way. And if I come from a traditional industry, let me explain this in the simplest way. In the old days, when you made a building, you put bricks, and you put cement, you cast it, and you made a building. But now, buildings are made much faster. What do they call it? Prefabrication, prefab. So if I can make it in a lighter vein, mocap technologies is like a digital system of prefabrication, where instead of sitting and doing something from the start and creating, that you really finish you save a lot of time and money by making sure that you can capture this in a way that will catapult the art of filmmaking into new stuff. And using the technologies of tomorrow, you are able to pre-visualize and look at things before you even make very expensive products in the future. So with the advent of these tools, with the advent of more artificial intelligence, with the advent of more machine learning to automate things like rotoscopy, etc., you are going to find a whole new paradigm of media. And if we were to use these words at the inauguration of Futura in 2027, even these words will sound very old. So this is a fast breaking. I think it's important to continue Futura 2022 into an annual event so that the new markers of what people should embrace in technology, right, become easier. We must make technology really easy, because at the end of the day, it is like the cars that I used in my lifetime, right? They were only manual cars. They did not have an AC. They did not have windows that went up automatically. And today it's a little different world that all of us are used to. You cannot buy a car that doesn't have an AC. You cannot buy a car that doesn't have a window that goes up automatically. And you are seeing a much greater number of automatics as compared to the stick shift or the manual gears. So media technology is exactly seeing that same evolution, where things that you had to do mechanically and manually are through the power of semiconductors, becoming something that you can, at the push of a button, you can get the template and then modify those templates in the way that you want. So I'll end by saying that what creativity does and what media technology does is to help you to break out of the established patterns. It helps you to look at things in a different way. And while everyone thinks they are creative, they still have to, everyone thinks they're a good driver, but not everybody will be able to drive a Formula One car. Very simple. But there are ways by which you start learning the art of driving to reach that goal. Right? You first go for stock car races, then you go for go-karts, then you go to Formula 3, then you go to Formula 2, then you go to Formula 1, maybe. So it's the same with the artists. It is the same in media. If you want to become the visual effects supervisor, you want to become the cinematographer that's going to work on a 300 crore movie, don't think you'll graduate from my MIT and get that chance, because nobody's going to take a risk of 200 crores on you when you start, but make that your journey. Understand why you are going to do it, understand how you're going to do it, and therefore what are you going to do. And I think today's conversations with all the experts will definitely help in giving all of you the direction as to what you should do in order for you to go through that journey in the future. So thank you very much for inviting me to say these few words just to kick it off, and wish the Futura 2022 a really great day and a great time ahead. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it was our pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for those valuable insights on the complete AVGC industry and the guidance what you have given for our, all the participants, the students and all the participants. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you. So now let us start with the sessions for the day. Yeah. So let's begin with the first session for the day on virtual production, a game changer for media and entertainment, by Mr. Hans, founder of HMV Associates Scan 360 Studios. So I welcome you, sir. I welcome you, Mr. Hans.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. Thank you. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you to everyone from Mahe and MIT for having me. I'm from Scan 360 Studios. We've been working in the digital field here in India for many, many years, specializing in motion capture, photogrammetry, LiDAR, volumetric, and virtual production now recently. What I'm going to talk a little bit about is virtual production is something that's all very, very new. And what I'll do first is maybe explain where it all came from and where possibly it's going. It's only a few years old, actually. So traditionally, we would shoot film on location, and we would, if we required visual effects or anything, we would add CGI, computer-generated imagery, into the shots, and that would be composited all together with the actors and the CG shots, the CG elements, and then the backgrounds if you're shooting, let's say, in Rajasthan with a palace in the background. So what happened during COVID is people could not get out as much and so on. And so in Los Angeles, they decided to create The Mandalorian with what's called virtual production. So they have these massive LED screens that are 270 degrees around the set, maybe some 150 feet across and 30 feet high with ceilings and floors and everything when required. So what they would do is they would create these CG elements and put them into these LED screens and then shoot the characters against these screens. So it gave you the impression of being at that location. Now, this has been used extensively over the past couple of years, and it is very much the new way of doing production. It is starting slowly here in India as well. So what I'd like to do to answer a few of the questions very specifically, there's a company in London called Imagination. They're a digital creative services company, and they did some very, very interesting work with Epic. Epic and Unreal Engine are the driving force in terms of the content that goes into these walls. Now, I'm not going to get into all of the intricacies of the hardware and the software and so forth, unless there are specific questions afterwards. But what I'd like to show is it's about a 12-minute example, 12 or 14-minute example, which I thought answered all of the questions and showed a lot of what it is all about. So I'll just share my screen and go ahead and do that. I'm just trying to see where I can share my screen here. 1 second. Full screen share. 1 sec. Davey, do you know how to share the screen here? I'm trying to figure this out. I've done it before, but not in Meet, not in Google Meet. Yeah. Oh, sorry. This one. Full screen. No. No, 1 sec. My settings. Meeting info. Do you know where I would share the screen? My screen. We do it all the time, but I'm not the guy doing it. Yeah, I can't hear you.
Yeah, so just next to the leave button there, so there's this small
Yeah, it's
icon.
not activated though. Is it
Not activated?
No, it's grayed out. I think you have to give me a permission, possibly.
Yeah, please. I'll just do that.
While Davey is doing that, I'll introduce a little bit more about this stuff of virtual production. One of the things I will talk about, like I said, I won't get into the hardware so much and this because there's dozens of different hardware configurations. There's camera tracking involved. There's specific servers, the different brands of walls, and so on. But there are specific techniques that are absolutely required to make this happen. And one of the most important technique, oh, there we go. I can share the screen now. I'll just get into this. One of the most important techniques is that what we're doing actually is we're turning traditional production on its head. What we would normally have done after a shoot in post-production, all the creation of these assets and everything, which often happens at the same time as production is happening, but they get composited together after the production is done. All of that must be done before the shoot. So you have the content to put into your wall. So this is a very interesting dynamic that is extremely challenging, actually, because the money that is spent on films is spent in a different way. They have to release funds earlier for the CG portion where they used to release it later. And the art director and the director and the cinematographers have to rethink the way that they work slightly. So it is a bit of a challenge. In some countries, it's gone smoothly. In other countries, it's not gone so smoothly. And so there's some interesting methods that are used actually to introduce this more slowly, and I'll talk about that in a bit too. I'll go ahead and share my screen now, and then you can ask questions afterwards, and we'll keep going on this. I'll just share my screen. Let me see. Here we go. Yeah, just tell me if you hear the audio on this, please. So here's this thing from Imagination out of London. Are you getting audio, Davey?
No, sir, we are not able to hear.
Oh, okay.
How about others?
No, sir.
No audio.
Yeah, we can see.
No audio.
No,
audio.
sir. No audio, sir.
No audio. Okay.
So, sir, while sharing, you have an option, include the audio from the system.
1 second. Let me just stop this for a sec.
So while sharing, include computer sound.
Okay, 1 sec. I'll find that. Here we go. Let me just go back to include computer sound. Share this window.
Yeah, here on the right.
Hold on 1 second. Oh yeah. Okay. Stop sharing. Where on the right side?
Yeah, when you share, you get that option, sir.
I'll just stop sharing for a sec. Share content, Control Shift E. Okay. Control Shift E. And let me just check.
Just next to the share content.
Include computer sound. Got it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. So sorry. We'll just start that over again. I'll bring it back and we can start from the beginning. And
no problems.
The screen. And here it is. And I'll just start this again. Anyway, it's just music until this point anyway, so I'll just keep going. Are you getting?
Yes.
Can you do your best to describe virtual production to someone who's never heard of it before?
One sentence.
I have actually had to explain virtual production to my mum.
Virtual production allows you to take any background or any location and put it.
I bet he's going to Google it.
I would say it's essentially compositing in a 3D space.
The ability to blend together the virtual and the physical in one shoot.
It's using LED behind you.
The way I explained it to her was using computer game technology to essentially build scenery.
And it's using a film camera pointing at that LED, which it's.
She kind of understood that, but she still did ask me how many carpenters we had on site.
So that when the camera moves.
It's being able to create a world digitally that live physical people can interact with, and you film and you change the environment around them as you're filming. Did I get that even vaguely right?
She got it right. All of the other experts in that field were sort of juggling around. She got it right. It's very interesting. So what she said is exactly that. It allows you to shoot with actors in a created background with a film camera that is being tracked. So now we'll get more into the technology of it.
Yes, please.
I think from the surface level, you think, oh, it's just like a bit of green screen. It's so much more than that.
At Epic, we were very interested in working with Imagination as a mega grant recipient because they're extremely well placed to take all of the knowledge and experience that they've got and apply that to these new methods and then create and push new boundaries and come up with new ways and interesting experiences and ways of doing things.
I wanted to mention also that this entire sequence you're seeing was shot and produced at the Epic Labs in London. So this is a lab R&D situation. And this is what I find very, very interesting because we're actually working on building one in Hyderabad at this point. And in the next 6 or 8 months, we'll have one as well. And we're talking with Epic and people of the industry to collaborate with us on this. What this allows is to bring industry leaders in, schools in, students in, anyone who wants to experiment and push this technology forward can come into a lab situation. So I wanted to use this specifically for that reason because it's not a commercial setup. which actually makes it a lot more interesting. And what you will see is the cutting edge of this stuff and all of the R&D that has gone into it. Just wanted to add a little sidebar there.
The best way to think of this is you're no longer manipulating an image, you're manipulating an object that happens to be digital. So that means essentially you can do whatever you want.
We've seen it used in Hollywood, we've seen it used in TV. Our objective here is to make it as cost effective for the end user in order to create compelling content, but potentially in just one location.
Digital tramline here.
Yes.
Kind of block paving. In my experience, the only way to really understand what the edges of possibilities are is by really pushing up against those edges and seeing how hard and how fast you can push them, and then just seeing what happens. Because I think it's in those moments you learn the most. Well, we need to place this tank stopper in a place that makes sense in the scene.
Because we're going through pre-visualization before we actually get to shoot, we're having the opportunity to remove a huge amount of the unknowns from the process. The creative team, the technical team, any external stakeholders, lighting, scenic, all of those parties can see what is coming together throughout the process, and that gives everyone complete transparency from start to finish.
This is a very important aspect that he spoke of, pre-visualization and what they call previs and or tech viz. Traditionally in a film, they'll do storyboards mostly, very often, especially for CGI effects and so on, throughout the industry, including India. And what they'll do is they'll do a storyboard, then they'll do what's called an animatic. They take those storyboard frames that are stills, and they will cut them together into the sequence at the proper length. And the director and the art directors and so on will be able to see what it looks like eventually. What is required here for this technology is a little bit more than that, in that they have to create, firstly, a storyboard that everyone approves. Then they have to create CGI elements that will eventually become the CGI elements that go into the screen to make sure that all the distances are right. You have to make sure if you're creating a palace wall with pillars, you have to know that the pillars will be at the right distance from the camera lens. So, and then you have people in between that are interacting. And you could also have on-set pieces, actual physical pieces that are on set. And this is where a lot of calculation must be taken in advance so that you have the right CGI, because if you're creating all these things in CG in Unreal or Maya or whichever system you're using, what happens is it's very expensive and it's costing the producer a lot of money. And if it's not correct, and if it's not the right scale and the right size and the right lighting and so on, it becomes extremely a large waste of money. So all of this has to be done beforehand. The other very interesting aspect that you'll see here in a minute is that you're marrying the physical world with the virtual world. Where the screen meets the floor at the bottom of the curve, you'll see it. There is a real floor. So that floor, you saw a little bit of it just now, has to be created to merge seamlessly with that digital world that you see in the background. So here they had some dirt, it was a street, and they had some brick elements and things like that. So all of that has to be done. They actually have to take some bricks, throw them on the ground, create some dirt and so on, which merges in this case. But if you're doing, for example, a desert scene, you would have to truck in some sand and be walking in the sand, and then beyond the sand, the physical sand of the set, and into the wall, it would melt into digital sand, and you would have to have that on set. So it's this very interesting dynamic for the art directors specifically. They have to really think in a different way, which again is a bit of a challenge in some places. So we'll just keep going here.
Make ridiculously high if you need.
The pre-visualization is really important, and it's a great way for us to ensure that we're able to get the shots that we need to get in and the setups that we need.
So this is the first time I've used the screen tech, and I really jumped at the chance because it actually gives you the ability to be slightly greener than you would do normally. Rather than constructing an entire set and then potentially throwing a percent of it away, this allows us to make something that we plug and play with.
Here you see the integration.
Our actor actually walks, it's going to be quite firm.
Here we go.
When you shoot with an LED backdrop with real-time in-camera visual effects, you've actually got something substantive to work with, something tangible that the actors and director and crew can really work against. So creatively, I think that's much more engaging and pleasing, and will get better results and offer up new opportunities.
What's amazing is that you don't have to suddenly reset, you don't have to wait for it to get dark, you don't have to move to another location. You can literally change the environment around them and they can interact with that environment. The opportunities are endless.
When you work on an ordinary set, you design it, draw it, it's constructed it, and to an extent it's a locked environment. This isn't. This is an environment which is plastic, so you can move it and you can move and you can react to it in real time, and that I think is fascinating.
It's difficult to get your head around it. You know, you're creating this world, and you know, worlds have different perspectives. You know, you have up, you have left, you have right, you have down, and you have to kind of understand where you are in that space.
In virtual production, we have a term that we use a lot amongst the team called thrusting, which corresponds to the camera's field of view. So that is represented by this box. Wherever the camera is seeing is sharp. Everything outside of it is kind of fuzzy. And the reason for that is we drop the fuzziness because of performance. It's less for the computer to think about and essentially to generate. And also that then provides those real-time reflections and real-time lighting back onto the stage.
Now can we have that backlight on?
You know, you put an object in a space and then you light it. That can take a long time. You put a car in a space and light it. That can take a really long time. We had a motorbike. We put it in the space and then you turn on the environment and suddenly all the light bounces off that LED straight onto the object. It just comes alive.
This is very important for all of you who endeavor to become cinematographers and people in this industry to understand is that you no longer have to light the entire scene specifically. You light it to see the people and the objects, but a large portion of the lighting actually comes from the background. If you were shooting in this location in real life in sort of a tunnel kind of thing, if it existed, and you had all these neon lights, you would have to deal with all these lights. They would be there naturally. But because they're not there naturally, and if you were shooting this on a green screen, which is what has been done for years and years, you have to deal with the green spill. So none of this environmental light would touch the actor, would touch the bike, would touch the ground. So it's again, it's a rethink of how things are done. And it's this sort of rebooting our creative process, which is actually so very interesting. Most of you, by the time you finish school and by the time you enter the industry, if you're going into this industry, this will be the norm. This will be the way you work. The old-fashioned way will be the old-fashioned way, and very few people will be using it, in fact. So this type of technology, I encourage you to do research on it. If it's anything you are interested in, do research, look things up. These things there's thousands of these on the web that you can find. And so I just wanted to add that little bit of knowledge.
Trying to set this shot up in the real world would be nearly impossible.
The technology also gives you the flexibility with your asset pipeline. It means you can reuse assets across a number of different mediums, including AR, VR, online, even in print. We were able to take photos of the bike and it really looked like it was in situ. Within a matter of a couple of hours, we'd taken an ultra high resolution stills of the environment of the bridge and an environment of the beach, which you couldn't do in post, you couldn't do in green screen. So this is going to become the most carbon-friendly way of doing complex multi-location shoots.
You literally can be in 4, 5, 6 different global environments in one day. You do that over a 3, 4, 5 day shoot. You can end up with a film shot over 5 days in 20, 30 different environments. It's incredibly production-friendly way of working.
This is also a very, very good point, especially for Indian cinema. All of you know it very well, I'm sure. We've all seen hundreds of films where you have a dance sequence in Switzerland, and then you have a wedding sequence outside of a temple, and then you have a war sequence that happens in Rajasthan in front of a palace, and then you're down at the seashore. All of that traditionally would have been lakhs and lakhs, if not crores of rupees, to move a team of 40 people to all these separate locations and bring them to all these places. So when you're using this, you're inside one location and you've pre-visualized everything, you've made sure everything works, and then you take all these different sequences, you load them onto your screen, and bang, you're there. You're shooting you can change the actors out, the main actors can be there, the stars and heroes and the heroines can be there, and you can have your dancers, and you're doing your sequence in Switzerland, and then in the afternoon, pre-lunch, you're shooting the marriage sequence outside the temple, And then afterwards in the afternoon, you get the stunt guys coming in and the fight sequence happens in front of the palace in Rajasthan. And then by evening, you're at sunset at the beach in Goa and you're shooting the love scene. And same people, same 4 different locations from all over the planet in one day. Unachievable any other way than this. So again, very, very interesting. I wanted to make that point.
Playback.
All of the software, the technical aspects, they can be quite creatively daunting at times, but they actually add a lot of creative possibilities for exciting new camera angles, dynamic lighting effects, and new ways of exploring spaces that you couldn't do if they were physical.
Balance is great, and after, do something slightly warmer.
Embedded in the story were a set of visual moments that would be really challenging for us to do in post-production, both on location or with green screen. But we wanted to take that challenge on using puddles and water, using neon lights, building an environment that was really complex, and also the glasses to show off the reflections.
I thought the wide would have been the most challenging shot, but it's all down to reflections. They have to be absolutely perfect or otherwise they stand out. You look up towards the taxi sign.
When we initially started to see the reflections, we realised there wasn't enough contrast in that scene. And instantly our technical artist Jamie was into the scene to kind of change those aspects of it.
But just in the same sequence, we needed July to be able to look at the sun. She needed to be looking at it, we needed the reflection of the sun in one of her lenses coming down. And because of virtual production, we could literally say,
Jamie, can we get the sun halfway down?
The technology is extremely flexible.
So this is what's very important too. It's interactive at the most incredible degree. They could say, this is an outdoor scene and it's under some bridge or tunnel, and they could say, okay, we need smoke here. And if you're directing and Rajmouli says, okay, well, I want some smoke on this shot, please. And the smoke guy is on the set. So they pump a bit of smoke onto the set. And then the CG guy he can bring in the smoke onto the CG scene in the background, and then that happens. It has to be thought of in advance, but they do that. They think of rain, they think of different elements, and you want the sun to be 10 degrees earlier in the day. Well, it is 10 degrees. All the grip guys, all they have to do is move the light a tiny bit. The lighting crew has to move the light on set a tiny bit, maybe 3 feet, and then the CG guy extends the sun the other way, and everything lines up, and you keep shooting. It takes 3 minutes. Not even 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. And you've changed the angle of the sun. You've added, and if in 5 minutes you can add smoke to the entire thing, the CG side as well as the live action side. So highly, highly, highly flexible, which is great. And this is where I think all the producers here in India are starting slowly to realize that this is actually a massive, massive money saver. And the creative people, the directors, the DPs, cinematographers, and so on, art directors, are starting to realize how this can actually extend their creativity. And like I said, all of you who are 1st and 2nd year students of a 4-year program, you will, without question, be using this technology. We'll also be doing, once we're opened up our center here in Hyderabad and so on, we'll make arrangements so you can all come and see this stuff. We're integrating this with motion capture and so on.
Gives you the ability to make in-the-moment adjustments on the software. You can make changes to the lighting, time of day, you can move architecture, and you can trigger animations on the LED scene.
We were looking down the street with the sun facing us directly. I think one of the bridges was just occluding the sun a bit too much, and someone mentioned it was like, oh, it would be nicer if the sun would peak between the 2 bridges. And I said, oh, what, like this? And just move the bridge down. And they were like, oh yeah, exactly like that. I think people are used to traditional workflows when it comes.
So you see what they did there? They actually moved the bridge down. Instead of moving the sun, they moved the bridge. And this is the beauty of it. You can do anything because it's completely computer generated and all in pieces. I'll talk a little bit more about the different disciplines.
We are playing God. Yeah.
Well, to some degree, I wouldn't call it God so much, but godlike.
Yeah, godlike.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Comes to filming content, but I think once people adjust and they realize, oh, this is very dynamic and a lot of stuff can change on the fly, on the day, I think it opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
Jamie can move heaven and earth.
When I got to
And let's just say that you're on a set here and Srinivas Mohan and Rajmouli say, oh, this won't work. This scene will not work. And then Srinivas Mohan says, okay, give me a green screen. one click of one button on the computer, the entire thing turns green. And you have a green screen right there, boom. And then they say, no, we'd like a blue screen because the actor is wearing a green, she has some green on her outfit. Let's go with a blue screen or a white screen, whatever color you want. You have that within an instant, a millisecond. So that is also very, very interesting. In fact, what most people are doing now is when they're shooting these sequences, they're shooting a few frames of green on every shot in case they require to add things that were not there and so on. They always have that green screen safety shot in the tank so they can use it.
The set, I was so shocked because usually we have green screen, but we have an actual set that's moving with me, and we have the whole city on the screen and on the walls and on the ceiling. There's a sky. It's just such an impressive set to be a part of, and the character really seems like it represents parts of me. It's this badass female. I just really relate to it. It's really empowering as a woman to play a character like that.
Another very interesting aspect, actually, what she mentions is that as an actor, you're working on a blue screen or a green screen, you're working in a void, a complete void. You're on this green space for 12 hours, working, interacting with nobody, and just the crew who happens to be there. But when you have this, it helps you get into your role. You can see where you're acting in. You can see that in this case, she's under a bridge with all these neon lights. It looks like Japan or something. But if you're across a palace or at the beach or at the hills in Switzerland, the mountains, wherever you are, you can see it and you react differently. Your thinking process is different. So it also helps the actors a lot, and it helps the directors a lot because they can, of course, visualize everything.
When the bike was actually delivered on set, we were quite quickly able to literally call in the different colours of the bike.
Yeah, that's it. Cool.
Using
So here
both
they've
the
created
real
a
and the
CG
digital
bike to
gives you
match the
flexibility. You can go
live
in close
action bike.
using the real bike for some shots, or reposition the digital one deeper into the scene for the others.
I think seeing where our creative teams get to with ideas and having this ability to tell stories however we want to tell them, it's made me really excited about how live events and virtual production and this digital world can really enhance these experiences for people. I think that's a really exciting thing for imagination.
The thing that strikes me the most is how small it is. The fact that you can achieve something visually so robust and enormous, but shooting it in such constraints is incredible. I mean, if you were trying to do this in real life, imagine the type of set and location that you would need.
The demo setup that we have at the lab here in London, it's not a proper stage. It's a tiny little demo setup to sort of play and explore and to demonstrate to people what the possibilities are with in-camera visual effects.
I always see the role of
here on the shot where she's on the walker, obviously the camera is shooting above her knees, so we don't see this. So she's walking and she has the full movement of walking, but she doesn't have to walk, and the set in the background is moving accordingly. And that again comes down to previs and tech viz, where that has to be planned out. You have to have enough footage in your CG world to move it backwards as she's walking, or forwards if she's going the other way, or sideways. If she happened to be walking sideways, the background would have to move from left to right or right to left, depending which direction she was walking in. So you have to know that you have enough CG created in order to do that. So that comes down to the pre-visualization as well.
Technology is being able to take any idea and be able to bring that to life. Those things are now allowing us to do things that we couldn't do before. And as the technology improves and reliability improves, you will absolutely be able to do full live.
Because we know, I mean, we know
productions.
it's happening. You can see the quality of the content that's coming out of Unreal Engine, the ability to manipulate it, the ability that it helps lighting the objects around it, the fact that you can create multiple assets. Constraints are off from a creative perspective. You can do anything you want.
I think it's some great opportunities for our clients. I think having them part of the process, from the beginning right through to the end, they can see things happening, they can see the changes live. It's really exciting. I think the opportunities are limitless.
biggest benefit to clients when you think about efficiency is the ability to simplify relatively complex situations. So that could be a complex integrated campaign where normally you'd have multiple production streams potentially run by many different agencies, and you can simplify that into one potentially single work stream. Because virtual production opens up all these new worlds, clients really need to consider how their brand goes into those worlds in terms of how it looks, feels, behaves. And I think we'll be the perfect guardians of their brand going into that because we'll understand all of those practical elements as well.
I can. Hey, Davey, this has about 3-4 minutes left, but I'm thinking possibly we should break away from this. It's just more of the same at this point. The gist of it has been seen now. I'm wondering if we should break away and maybe go for some Q&A, possibly if there's any questions specific to this stuff. What's your take?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, Mr. Hans. That was a wonderful presentation and a lot of amazing stuffs what you just shared with us. So it's really amazing. So I hope even other participants liked it. So if anybody has any doubts, you can
Any
ask.
doubts, any questions at all? I mean, I can talk about the tech and so on. If there's anyone who's already immersed in this world to some degree or thinking about going into this, I can certainly discuss a little bit more about the technology and so on. Any questions at all? Seems like we're good.
Hello.
Yes, hello, go ahead.
Like I know Unreal is coming up, like it has started helping to create 3D worlds and all, but do softwares really matter? Like, oh, this software can do this, we need to change the software, something like that.
Yeah, it's quite important actually. There's two softwares primarily that are working on this right now. There's Unreal and there's Unity, Unreal Engine from Epic and Unity from Unity itself. So what happens is all of this stuff has to be part of the code. Unreal has just by default done a better, not a better job, but a slightly more advanced job, and they seem to have hit the ground running a bit faster. So it's become more or less the default software to use. It's a combination of being able to see there's two levels in here. The first level is asset creation. You can create your assets in Maya, in Blender, in Unreal, in Unity, anywhere. But it's driving the real-time aspect of it that Unreal has become very, very good at. So interactive lighting, instant changes in lighting, instant changes in texture, moving the items around on the set and so on. That you can do in Maya too. And then integrating all of that with your camera tracking, because as you can imagine, if you're moving your camera from left to right, your background must also move from left to right. So if you're moving left on your camera, dollying left, your background must go right and vice versa. So that is what the interactivity is all about, and not all of the softwares can do that. Unreal has what they call end display, and also there are many other servers that are required to make that work in a more seamless and without latency. The big problem is the latency in all the other softwares, and if you have latency against your camera, and you move your camera and your set moves half a second later, well, of course, that won't work. So there are other softwares that are coming up, but currently Unreal is pretty much the champion there. Yes, no doubt. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
No worries. Anyone else for some questions? Maybe about the previous tech viz or anything like that? Nothing specific. Okay.
Oh.
No worries. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So I'm. Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
Good morning, actually.
Good morning.
Yeah. So I'm a final year student in media technology. I'm a video editor. I'm trying to get into the film industry, and I just wanted to know, like, moving ahead. Yes, VFX is gonna be the real, like, I mean, a big part of filming any projects, especially sci-fi and all. So as a video editor, I do know Adobe softwares like Premiere Pro, and I use After Effects too. But I'm not using currently like Unreal engines and like Blender. I know a bit since it was a part of a curriculum. But I just want to know, like, how should we prepare for those? Like, I know eventually I will have to be doing VFX for any production house that I'm working. So I just want to know what is the career path we should have and what we should,
Yeah, absolutely.
we should prepare ourselves for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, I think you should understand that anything that has VFX and all of these different layers of content and so on still have to be edited. And what you're doing as an editor and what you've studied to become an editor in either any of the editing platforms, Avid or Premiere, whichever you happen to be using, FCP, all of that is still required. So all these scenes will be put together or shot, but then they will be too long on the front and the tail. They'll have what they call handles, which you of course know about as an editor. And then you will be doing the editing and lining all these things up. So you don't have to specifically know about Unreal and all this magic to be a really, really good editor. In fact, if you love editing, I would say keep pushing on the editing and don't become a generalist where you know a bit of this, a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of that, but become an editor, but become the best editor in the world. And every year, every single year at every award show, there's an award for best editor. And that one best editor doesn't necessarily know about this Unreal stuff and so on. So I think that's important. Now, if you're interested in doing this other stuff, you can also do. You can learn it on the side. You can take another course. You can come on to some sets. If you're an editor professionally, you will have access to film sets. You will have access to TV sets. And you'll be able to mix and mingle with these people. And if you're inclined to do this type of thing, then you should learn it as well. And you'll expand your knowledge base.
Okay, and what we should right now prepare as in like build up portfolio to have, like what our portfolio should have to compete in the industry.
I think it depends on what you're looking to do. Honestly, if you're an editor, you have to be the best editor possible. You have to know about what works in editing between characters and scenes and so on. You have to know that. You have to study that. You have to look at the masters from India and abroad to see what editing, because editing honestly has not changed very much. If you have editing and you have two people talking and they're in a love scene, how long do you stay on the girl before you cut to the boy? And how long do you stay on the boy till you cut to the girl? That's where the magic happens. The director will give you the angles, they'll give you all the lenses and so on. But you are the one who decides, when do I cut? At what point? Is it before the blink or before the tear, or is it after the tear? So that's up to you. So in terms of expanding your knowledge, if you go into CGI, you're then dropping your editing. You'll have that in your files. You'll know how to do it, but you then can become also a CGI creator, and then you can go on set and you can become a DP. I mean, imagine if I talked to the older guys and one guy was going to be a director of photography and the other guy was going to be a lighting guy, or sorry, not a lighting guy, but an art director. Totally different disciplines, but yet they work very closely together. And without the two of them collaborating along with the director and the rest of the teams, nothing happens. There is no film. So the same thing applies in the digital world. The art is still there. At the end of the day, what your job is, and all of our jobs, is to create an emotive experience for the audience. We make them laugh, we make them cry, we make them angry, we make them fall in love with cinema. And that's what it's all about.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I have a question, if I'm allowed.
Please, absolutely.
Yeah,
well, Davey, I think we have time.
Yeah, just 2 more minutes. And Mr. Hans, I request you to please stop sharing your screen. So can you please do that?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, stop sharing.
No problem. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Arunaksha, please go ahead.
Yeah, so hi, Mr. Han. So I am in the same boat with Kritin right now. We are in the same class, but he is working to be an editor, and I am basically working to be a cinematographer, a DOP. So my job is to basically build the set, like whatever the camera shoots, that's my job, right? So to look through the lens of the camera and see what the camera is looking at, and to arrange the scenes and the angles and everything accordingly. But if there is CG involved and if there is a lot of green screen there and like a lot of things which are not actually existing, so how do I plan for that if I'm planning to?
That is where I was talking earlier about the pre-visualization, previs and or tech viz. So you have to work with the creative artists that are supplied to you by your production, and you have to work very closely with the director, with the art director, and you as a DP, of course, and very much so with the visual effects director as well. So you will have to collaborate as a team, and you will be one of the five cogs in this team. So there's the director, there's the you'll be the cinematographer, art direction, CG, and the props and so on. So you'll be working in conjunction with them. The director will say, okay, here's the artist who's creating all these sets in CG, and here's what it's going to look like. And you will be able to interact with them verbally. And then eventually you'll see it on a screen. And then eventually you'll see it on the large LED screen with your camera and your lighting in place. And then you'll start shooting it. I hope that answers. I mean, it's a short answer to a complex question, but you know, we can, if you need to communicate with me somehow and we can discuss it further, you can reach through Devi. He has my email and we can discuss this. Like, I'm off so often in Bangalore, so we can meet up somewhere.
Sure, so that'll be great. Actually, that'll be a lot of help. Thank you, sir.
We can go meet at the COE at Abai. That would be awesome. I'm there all the time.
Sure, if I can ever make it to Bangalore, I'm surely gonna try to contact you, sir. Thank you. That's a lot of help.
Okay, thank you.
That's so kind of you, sir, that you're inviting our students to meet you. And
my pleasure. I think if we don't nurture the students, we have no future industry. So we must take care of that.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Overall, it was an excellent presentation. So I just loved it, and I hope all others just loved it too. And we thank you once again, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope to meet you all one day. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Take
sure,
care.
sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye.
You too.
And yeah. So hi, Mr. Rajat Oja. So welcome.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Rajat, for accepting our invitation. And as I was telling you, my dear students, that I met sir in once in Bangalore and once in New Delhi, and I just requested him that, sir, you have to be a speaker, and he readily, accepted. And it was so kind of you, sir.
Just like Hans said, like if we don't nurture these students, there's no future.
Yeah.
It's a selfish exercise, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just quickly introduce sir, Mr. Rajat Oja. So he is the CEO of Gametronics, and he has been in the video game industry for 26 years and worked on marquee games like Resident Evil, Battlefield, Final Fantasy, SGS, and many more. So he has always been at the forefront of technology, and he's currently busy building an India Ka Apna Metaverse Party Night, so which has hosted some of the marquee events in Metaverse. And Rajat sir is one of those successful entrepreneurs who have taken his gaming experience to the theme park industry and built some of the most popular theme parks across the world. And he has developed games which has clocked over 60 million downloads. It's just amazing. Yeah, and currently he's working on multiple VR theme park projects across the globe and sealed AAA title licenses to develop VR experiences around them, and created India's first global PS3 game, Smash and Survive, and it had been the top selling driving game chart on PSN. So like that's a lot. Sir has a lot of achievements. So the list is long. So keeping short, I once again, invite you and request you to address our students and all the participants.
Thank you, Devi. Thank you. And good morning, everyone who's part of it. I see Viren, my dear friend. Amazing to see you, as always. So quickly, just long story short, I'm a gamer, I'm a game developer. That's what I do. Ask me about games and I can go on and on. And since Hans and Biren were talking about Unreal Engine and Unity, I've been using Unreal Engine since 2003, but for video games and not for virtual production or anything like that. And just I heard somebody asking a specific question that is that important to know the engine. Let me just answer that quickly before I jump in. In fact, your fundamentals should be strong. I worked on engines which were when even Unreal was not there, when Unity was not there, but they were like interesting technologies like C++ is the bestest thing possible. You can write anything and everything. And today itself, I'm going to give a talk in IIT about the same thing. So your fundamentals, stronger the fundamentals, everything else will come and go. But focus on your fundamentals. With this, I'll start my talk. So now the focus is on metaverse, and everybody is talking about metaverse. It's kind of a buzzword, and whenever there is a buzzword in the industry, there is abuse, right? So the reason I keep doing these talks largely about metaverse is to remove that AB part of abuse and just make it for useful, so we don't we understand what exactly is metaverse, where it's going, and what it stands for. And at the same time, just before this, we were like completely focused on games, but we are pretty old in metaverse space as well. How the world see metaverse as metaverse, I would say we were even in the immersive world. But we recently in 2020, just before pandemic started, we started working on our metaverse, true metaverse. Before that, it was just immersive world, telepresence, and stuff like that. Now I'll share my screen. And feel free to ask any question in between. I have kind of a hard stop because I have to catch a flight. But I'll make sure that I answer every question which comes my way. So I'll just share the entire screen. So yes, this is metaverse. I call it the next generation operating system, or even people call it the next generation internet as well. But yeah, we are going little, becoming more ambitious with calling it operating system, because operating system is when you actually forget about the tech side of the thing and you just focus on the usability aspects. You open your Zoom, you open your Teams, you open your Word, PowerPoint, you don't care what's underneath, what's behind that, and that's precisely where we are in metaverse space, where slowly the technology will completely, metaverse term will fade away, and only the use cases and other things will be, talked about. So, and that's one of the reasons I call it the next generation operating system. So we are Gamitronics, as you've already got to know. People call me founder at Party Night, which I like. But Party Night is not the company, it's the product. And people call me real estate guy now. They don't call me an engineer or a creative or a developer, because I'm selling lands, and I'm selling lands and I'm selling virtual properties and stuff. So this is my new identity. No complaints. I love it. Because that's the brand. So there was long back, there was a company called Mnemonics or something like that, and they had a product called Tally. The entire world knew and started calling them as Tally. Finally, they had to rename the company as Tally, because Tally became bigger than the company name itself, like 197 and Paytm, right? So I think Party Night is so big now that it's Gamitronics is kind of, so that's why we have to say we are Gamitronics, so that's how we go. So this is like very quick, this is who we are. Rajat, Rajiv is Chota Bhim creator, Albert is Canadian. Forget about this, let's jump to this thing, so we have been video gamers, video game developers. We created worldwide top 10 chart games and PlayStation and Google Play, on Alexa and Nest Hub as well. We have been globally featured by Epic Games multiple times because we tried to push the limits of the system. You're going to see it in the next slide. Two things we did just before, Party Night. And both of them actually got global coverage and global highlight for the rest of the world to see how Unreal Engine can be used, and maximized, and then of course we had some, two number one title on VR in VR space, both on Steam and Oculus Store. So this is something what we did. There's a video game which we did, again, a VR title. And another one is most of the people's favorite show, Tarak Mehta Ka Ulta Chashma. We did the animated version of that completely using Unreal Engine. And that became kind of a global story, how a game company could showcase, an animation being done, and we cut down the cost by 65%, and that is kind of, so I'll just quickly show you that. Sound is there?
Sorry, no sound.
Okay, so somebody was talking about how to do the sound. Somebody was teaching.
No, when you are sharing, there is an option just next to that key, include computer sound. Yeah.
So should I hit back?
You have to maybe reshare it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And okay, this is where turn off incoming sound show device setting. Okay, yes, include. Okay, got it. That is a good learning.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So you can hear it now. So it's already aired, so you can actually go and have a look at that. And at the same time, SGS trailer is pretty long one, shows and it's a VR title. It's a cover and shoot title, doing pretty good in the arcades. About 150 arcades, including Dave and Buster's, which are like the premium category arcades. They all have SGS. At the same time, it's there in the consumer space. Coming back to metaverse. Right. So there are a lot of studies going on, like, oh, this is going to be this $1 trillion, that $1 trillion, and all those things. And I keep talking about it. This industry is going to surprise most of these, JP Morgans and PwCs of the world, because they don't understand the might of the Gen Z and Gen Alpha. When they pick up something, they just go crazy. How the whole gaming scene changed in just last 2.5, 3 years. The industry had been around for quite some time, but how it picked up and everybody became a gamer, including 50s and 60 years old as well. But the youngsters, they didn't realize any other way to be and hang out with. Discord was definitely one of the things but again, that was again game centric, right? But so the reason why Discord again became so big is like, it had some deeper connection with game technologies and gaming in general. So I think, this is entirely 3D world. But again, 3D world doesn't mean metaverse. But that because the newer generation knows the consumption, in 3D space so well, and they are so comfortable, and the devices, and thanks to Geo and all those guys, the entire ecosystem is ready to take it to the next level where you start consuming content in 3D space, everything and anything. And we have done some of the cases which we'll probably talk about. So yeah, this is a complicated definition of Web 1, that everything used to be at one place. Web 2, all your data belongs to them. All your bases belong to them, kind of thing. Facebook has your data, Twitter has your data. You're collaborating, you're talking, you think that you are actually, engaging with your friends, but no, you're giving so much back to the Googles of the world and the Facebook of the world and all. Web 3 is where you have your data, you are the master. Finally, you have the assets, what belong to you. If you buy something in one place, you can use it in the other game. Is it possible that I buy candies in Candy Crush and can use in Temple Run? No, right? But slowly this is completely changing, because your assets should always belong to you. And if there are possibilities of using them in different world and different places, in different spaces, then nothing should stop you from being able to do that. So the simpler definition is this, for me. Web 1 was all about information, .html pages, go to this, rajatoja.html, you see all about Rajat, okay, that's about it. Web 2 is all about collaboration, about Facebook, kind of you go there, you click on, you like, you subscribe, and all those kind of things happen, but nothing beyond that. But Web 3, since it's completely 3D, you literally participate, you are there. And I keep giving example of some of the car launches and other things we've done, but there are so many use cases, how this actually, the definition changed. Like, so you actually launch a car in your real world, right? They bring the car, they bring the singer concerts and all those flashlights. They talk about the car features. You see it, you ovulate it, and they just leave the place, and you're done with it. You can't do anything beyond that. Even on YouTube, there's no limitation of how many people can attend, but still there are limitation on what you consume. In Web3 kind of participatory world, you cannot just do singer will come, CEO will come, they'll show all the features and everything, and not just that. The things don't stop there. You can actually explore the car. You can change the color of the car, rims, upholstery, everything, and customize the car. So we call this social yet personal, and that's what is Web3. It's social, but it's absolutely personal, because you all are there to see one thing. You all are engaging for one particular thing. But every experience, every data, everything what you're doing there is absolutely personal to you. So even the brand actually, gets a lot of understanding about, how this whole thing works. Like this particular segment likes red color car, this particular segment likes blue color car. So there's a lot of understanding, deeper analytics engine which actually work under this. And that's one of the reasons why every single brand in the world wants to be part. Yesterday, Hermes came, one of the premium fashion brand, the bags and stuff. They're known for them. Coach, Gucci, Tommy Hilfiger, these are the fashion guys. But in terms of movies and all, A.R. Rahman keeps on talking about his love for NFTs and all those things, because there is so much more you can actually engage with your, audience, which is just impossible in Web 1 and 2. So this is where the magic is. It thrives within the blockchain, Web3, and the gaming space. So Web3 doesn't mean, metaverse. Web3 is a process engine for metaverse. Metaverse, it sits on top. It's more on the other. It actually uses the Web3 as the process engine. So don't confuse, when people say it's Web3. Not every Web3 use case is metaverse, but every metaverse should have and must have Web3 component to that. And that's why I keep saying that the abused term of making anything and everything immersive in 3D space is not the actual definition of metaverse. If that would have been the cases, then every multiplayer game is a metaverse forever. So metaverse had existed, during the World of Warcraft days, during Dota days, during Call of Duty days, and during, all those kind of, things. So that's where it differentiates completely, because it uses the Web3 layer, which is the most important layer. So this is, we participate, we already spoke about it, we'll just jump to, it does not need to have VR and AR, as a lot of people say, and virtual world, again, as I said, is not metaverse, but having virtual world as a component for metaverse is an important thing, but that's not everything, so, but VR and AR are more consumption thing. You can't teach VR for teaching VR. You need to teach immersive medium. You need to teach the technology. You need to teach the storytelling. You need to teach the technology behind it, and use it as uh, a VR or non-VR kind of thing. So it's like, again, you're making a movie. If you're releasing it on Netflix, it doesn't need to be different from the cinema hall thing. You can always figure out the grandeur and all those kind of things and stuff, but still, it's a movie. So similarly, any experience, even in the metaverse space can be. And Mark Zuckerberg had been selling VR, and trying to change the definition, but I think he'll fail there. But that's just my personal opinion. But because metaverse is far above and beyond, and it will thrive on the chain, not off the chain. And on the chain means on the blockchain. So. This is another easy way to understand metaverse. Like for an absolute layman style is that your first place is always your home, second place is your workplace. It can be your college as well, because that's where you work today. So, and the third place is where you see known and unknown faces. That's where you're going to meet people. So that's the virtual world we are talking about. You go there, you meet people, you don't even know them, but you connect with them and you figure out. It's like being on this planet Earth, moving around, figuring out your own ways, and exploring things. So we have these are the key components of metaverse. So we keep talking about Web3 and virtual world, Web3 and virtual world. So here, virtual world, which needs to sit on a decentralized, which means it has to be a blockchain. It has to have a social angle to it, which means people should be able to communicate, talk, text, video, audio, all sort of ways. I'm surprised Devi knows me so well and says still conducting this event in Microsoft Teams, and why not on party night? But I'm offended. So this easily we can do this event.
Next time, sure. Next time, sure.
Please,
Yeah.
there are more than 150, including, many academy, are working with us, not just for events like these, but for delivering the content as well. Instead of seeing Baiju's lines, I will literally teleport you to the lung of the person or the heart of the person to educate you about heart. If you want to see a prism, I'll hand over a prism right in front of you, so you understand the reflections and refractions and all those kind of basics of it by doing it. And that's the power of metaverse. It's coming back, so it needs to have the social angle and the creators economy. That means just like Instagram, right? People are creating, people are monetizing also after certain this thing and all. They create reels and stuff. Similarly, in digital spaces like metaverse, where you sit and the future audience is going to be native to this. Gen Alpha is going to be absolutely native. They don't even know the 2D spaces. Like they got their hands directly in the 3D world. Their first game was probably PUBG or Fortnite or something like that. Unlike people like us, who started with Contra and stuff like that, or people like you also who started with 2D games, a lot of things and like those, or different the execution of operating systems, what you had been through. So the newer age, they will live inside this digital space. So you will earn where you live, right? So the thing is that the digital space is your world to live in. So you will create all the assets and all the things for thriving and making this particular 3D space so big and so well and so interesting that you'll be able to find your own clientele, tomorrow there itself. That's one of the reasons why legal companies, banks, academics, hospitals, everybody is jumping into the bandwagon. Not everybody is coming because they understand metaverse. Many of those are coming for the checkbox item that yes, we did something in metaverse kind of thing. But there are still a lot of interesting and serious company like Tommy Hilfiger. He literally released a separate range called Parallel X, in metaverse, which is going to be your fashion costume only in metaverse. It's never going to be sold in the real world. Similarly, a lot of companies have, gone ahead with this. So we also have our own creators economy where you can come and create your music, you can create your fashion apparel and all those things and sell on the platform. And even if somebody is not buying, somebody plays your music in their party or in their event, then also you actually earn from it. I buy the entire palace of Mahishmati, there I can literally start giving it to people as the Airbnb. You can stay there for 3 nights. 3 nights, this is yours, fully controlled. We call it semi-fungible token, just like you do know the non-fungible token. So I buy the palace as the non-fungible token, and this belongs to me. Legitly, it is my property. But I can create the SFTs, which are the tickets of Airbnb. And now for those 2 days, 3 days, or 3 nights, and all those, this palace will belong to you. Third day, these SFT gets burned and it gets again transferred back to me. So people can create various use cases of their own choices, and this thing which they can use in this particular metaverse space. And that's again the important thing. That's why Second Life was not a metaverse. another life was not a metaverse, right? So because there was no economy. When you are talking about creating a universe, how can you detach economy from the world? Economy has to be there. There has to be some buying, selling, trading, all those kind of systems should be in place. Then only you can be native to that universe. So this is where we are. Of course, we are living in the creators economy now. Engineering era is gone. So all the media guys and all those guys, now you know how to earn using it. Like content is the key. Finally, if you, in order to create content, you don't need to go back and probably write everything from scratch. In our time, even to move a pixel, we had to write 20 lines of code. But now it's like as simple as just like moving things here and there. And you are so lucky that engines like Unreal and Unity are absolutely free. I remember the time when I paid $1.3 million to have Unreal Engine, because that used to be a paid engine back in those days. So, and not everybody could afford it. So again, the technology is with you now. And coming to the identity part, which is the gateway for metaverse, just like your email IDs and other things were in Web 2 were so important, or your phone number was so important. In this world, wallet and the identities are going to be very, very important, and that's going to be your identity. I'm not going to touch upon the wallet part because at this moment, metaverse doesn't need to again have the crypto layer. It can work on the fiat currency as well, and for the time being. We'll see how the laws of the land and other regulatory issues come back, and we'll figure it out. But let's focus on the identity. Everybody starts their journey on metaverse creating their own identity. Usually Gen Alpha and Gen Z, they don't like to be photographed so much. They shy away, and Gen Z like no. But this is the same audience which will spend humongous number of hours, as much as like 4 to 5 hours, just customizing and creating their avatars. So this is their alter face, right? So it's more like Ready Player Me, where you are creating something what you want to be. Something like Tamasha movie, of Ranbir Kapoor. He goes to Europe, becomes a flamboyant guy, returns back to India as a blue-collared, very introvert, shy guy, but outside absolutely different. But at the same time, there will be people who want their look and feel to be absolutely like their own look and feel. So we, of course, created the tool where you can very quickly, create whatever every part of your, like, nose, eyes, mouth, jaw, eyebrows, body, hairs, everything, costumes, customization, and imagine the kind of sailing and everything can happen with this. So all these things can be done, and you can create your own avatar, you know. And at the same time, as I mentioned, there are a lot of people who actually look for their real self. So we created a tool where you just upload your 4K video or even photographs also, and then you get your avatar in minutes, not in hours, probably in zones. And not just that, we created tool, and every metaverse company is working on it. So I'm focusing more on the metaverse side of the thing, not my product or this product. But of course, I can be much more clearer when I talk about my product. So interesting thing here is that we created tool where you can actually use your AI TensorFlow, as a matter of fact, Google's TensorFlow, to create your own animation without using motion capture, without wearing motion capture suits and all those kind of things and stuff. And there are some third party available, but we created our own because we have to create millions and millions of animations now because the studio is so busy, and it doesn't make sense to give this money to someone else, and when we can create and we understand TensorFlow really well. So this tech actually allows us to create, and anybody can literally sit in front of the camera and create their animation. So those animations can, now you're not restricted by Fortnite dance moves and all those kind of things. You can create your own dance move and make them popular and probably sell them, because creators economy. So you can see whatever this guy was doing, we just transferred those animations to Daler Mehndi here for his concert of 26th January. So yeah, so this is again, the kind of tool set we work on. So let's focus on the creators economy. It's as simple as you build it, you price it, you sell it, and you let it flow. There is very complicated definition, around for creators economy. But all I can say is that where it's like, Pepsi created their cola, right? They decided on the price. Nobody had any control over it, right? So they decided the price. You paid for it. Nobody had a control. Nobody pushed you, forced you, other than your friends, to pay for this. But nobody actually, so you decided that you agreed to pay that price, and then there is absolutely no permission required from my side, for this entire process. Government is not, of course, except certain regulatory things and stuff like weed and stuff like that, right? So where the government will come. So similarly, metaverse will also find its own policing system soon. At this moment, it's a wild west, but still and that's why we actually do a lot of things in a very restricted manner. We are not allowing, though we can, but we don't allow people to just be whatever and do whatever. Because there are a lot of harassment and other cases are already getting registered in the metaverse space. So again, wherever use happens, abuse and misuse also happen. So we see how much we can control this thing. Thankfully, the image processing AI, the conversational AI, and all these are at that level where we can have control, real-time control over so many things. Like even here, what you're seeing caption below, I use some cuss word, those will be completely culled off. It will not even show those things. So that's the level we are at. So this is creators economy where you don't need my control. You're doing in that space and letting it flow. Um, Quickly talk about decentralized. I'm pretty sure most of you guys know about blockchain or understand blockchain, or at least heard about blockchain. So that is like so damn complicated, how people like to make it, because even though we are in creators era, we still want to, have that touch of engineering, everywhere. I just like to believe in simplifying things for people and for myself also, because I'm a creator first. If I have a story, I should be able to tell. I should not probably go into the, the understanding and learning too many things. So a permissionless world where you don't need my permission, which is completely distributed over the internet. So your information is not at one place, it's everywhere, and every block of the chain authenticates and confirms कि हाँ ये इसी का है. Now I'm giving you a thumbs up. Yes, go for it. This belongs to the next block says yes, this belongs to any chain, any block in the chain says no, this is not Rajat. It comes as trashing. It needs to be open. And that's why it's completely up there. And no authority. I don't want to have authority on my chain. At this moment, I have. But come January, we initially targeted November, but come January, we will not have any control over our own, metaverse in general, but on our chain, of course not. What we did, we instead of using any third-party chain, we created our own chain so we can be the control point when we want to give it out in the hand, because it's all about community. The entire blockchain space is about trust, and so that's why there is no authority. Otherwise, Vitalik will just create a lot of Ethereums and will change the prices as much as he wants. He can't do that, right? So there is a lot of systems and there are contracts and everything in place. So that's what we focus on. And so we created our own party night chain using Cosmos SDK, which is the layer 0 protocol. And this is the complicated side of the thing. But the reason we did it, because we wanted to have absolutely no walls. Most of the wallets and most of the blockchain, even if we use, they force you to use certain type of wallet. Why, if you are saying you are decentralized, why are you forcing me to use this wallet, right? It's like, having ICICI credit card and which will work only in ICICI ATM. Doesn't work, right? My Axis Bank card should also work. My SBI card should also work, right? Because that's my money. And this is the system which is there, right? So similar thing in the decentralized world also. So we wanted to have control over that. Second thing we wanted to control over was this semi-fungible token, which I talked about, Airbnb things. And the third and the most important thing is the real-time minting. So when you are creating NFT, like I'm just three of your friends come to the stage, we have 11 instrument, you play instrument, one guy becomes the vocal singer, and you keep singing and you record the song, and in the real time you can convert this as an NFT. and dump it in my metaverse. So once people start using and they find your music, they can literally play and and you earn, or they buy and you earn, right? So they don't need to come to me. It happens on the chain automatically. This was not being offered by the chains we were evaluating, so we created our own chain. So this is the complicated layer of this is where your entire blocks of the chains are relying. Then the interface which actually connects these blocks. This is the decentralized part. This is the 3D part. This is the economy, what you're building, and then you are giving the discovery, how you find certain things and how you find different assets, because it's a universe you're building, and then it actually comes to the overall experience. So these are like the critical layers of, and that's why immersive world or just the 3D world are not metaverses. I was in a conference recently where somebody was talking about some other definition about decentralized and all, but this is the accepted, by the metaverse consortium, which is being formed, by Microsoft and these guys, accepted definition and accepted layers of metaverse. Of course, this is something what I talked about, that I have an asset. I should not be able to control it on my platform alone. It should free flow to the other platforms as well. So if I'm creating something on my this thing, or you own something in my metaverse, you should be able to use it in Decentraland or Sandbox and places like those. So so the important thing when we talked about being operating system, I was being like kind of pessimistic about it when I started talking to media and everybody in January and February. I was saying that this will happen by 2028, when there will be phones with metaverse, where people will not go in icon-based world. They will just enter the metaverse, and from there they'll go to OTT, they'll go to e-commerce, they'll go for gaming and everything. HTC already launched it. Desire 22 Pro is a metaverse powered phone, which is already there in the market. Another interesting thing here is for us at Party Night is that one of the largest electronics manufacturer reached out to us to make Party Night as the operating system of their device. So when you switch it on, you directly go in Party Night, and from there you decide whether you want to go and watch Netflix, or Amazon Prime, or you want to play games with your friends, or you want to go and shop with your friend, or you just want to go and hang out with your friends and go to the bar or cafe and all those things. All that is happening on the device, and we are enabling that right now for them. We have already done Airtel Metaplex, so people can, so you and your friends can go to the Metaplex, which is powered by Airtel, and go and watch House of Dragon, and Disney Hotstar in Metaplex on a big screen with your friends. One friend decides to pause it, it pauses for everyone, and then you can go out and literally have popcorn. And recently a biscuit brand also came there. So there are a lot of bundies and everything is coming outside our Metaplex. A lot of brands are coming and reaching out and doing it. So, and again, we keep saying that this is the next generation's, operating system, because what we figured out, other than the regular things, what you do is that you consume OTT, socialize, you date, YouTube, education is an important thing. You game a lot, you attend concerts and events and stuff like that. You go and shop a lot online on, Mintras and Flipkarts and Amazons and all those things. You start trading very early in Steam card systems. If you see, the trading on Steam is huge, humongous, and you create, you do a lot of contents on reels and all those kind of things and stuff. Now, this is a huge, things, like over the last 10 years of existence of, or the proliferation of the mobile, these use cases were built, right? In metaverse, within few months of our existence, forget about the rest of the world, but our existence of 8 months in metaverse space, we pretty much did everything what all these 10 years, like other people built. So the thing is, metaverse today is capable of doing everything and much, much more, because don't forget the definition of Web3, participation. You participate in it. So I'll quickly play some of the use cases we've done. I'll fasten it up in like 2 minutes. I'll try and wrap it up so I can take there are. So it's surging. If you see, Sunsilk opened their land within 1 month. They saw 21 million plays, and it was a woman-centric, approach. But still, this kind of number. So again, it's not a fade. It's not something which is kind of it has a real audience. Real things are happening. Volvo XC40 completely chucked out their physical launch, and they launched only in metaverse. There's a expensive things are being sold in metaverse. Hospitals are coming, banks are coming, big fours are coming to metaverse. As a social yet personal, I already talked about it. You get super insightful statistics, because it's a 3D space where you're looking at, where you're walking with you, who you're walking, what you're talking, everything is there, everything is captured, and there's tremendous things we've done. ISRO bought a land in our metaverse, so ISRO's all future launches and other thing. In even the Amitabh Khan, ex-CEO of Niti Aayog, and our KTR Garu, who's the IT minister, they all were in the gamified avatars in this world. We are already launching a mall. There is a phygital experience. That means you buy something in metaverse, gets delivered to your doorstep using our delivery partner Dunzo and Swiggy, and that's already happening. So you go to Cafe Coffee Day, you talk to your friends. Everybody orders the coffee they want. They sip in the physical world and they sip in the real world as well. Because that's get delivered to your place, and then you communicate. We are working with now about 150 brands. There's a little old. 25 celebrities have already signed with us for concerts and fashion shows and all those kind of things. Multiple 3 governments in the Indian states are working with us right now. A lot of movie production houses, advertisements, and immersive trailer is a big thing, right? Instead of walking around and watching Maheshmati Bahubali trailer, you walk around Maheshmati city, you see the glimpses of all the key moments. You actually engage with the stars of the movie. This is going to change everything what movies stood for. We are already working with 2 production houses and couple of one production house has 3 web series and 1 production house has a movie. So we are creating the immersive trailer for that movie. And of course, these are the things you can create. So we are already Amazon, Facebook, LinkedIn, Tinder, a Steam or Miniclip, Netflix, and much, much more. We're already there in terms of course, and not in terms of money and not in terms of this thing, but, we'll reach there. The cases that have been built around this, so colleges are working with us, banks, hospitals, production houses, media, all, quite literally everyone. This is the population we have. This is the age. We are very, impressed to see that the contribution from tier 1 and tier 2 are pretty much almost the same. So it's a great thing, that means people are consuming these new age things and stuff on, this thing. So this is who I am. Thank you very much for being so patient and listening to me. Happy to take any question if you have.
Yeah, that was indeed an excellent presentation, and amazing stuffs to know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I request any of you, if you have any questions, please. Yeah, dear participants. Yeah, please go ahead. We can hear you.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. Good morning again. I'm Kristen again. I think you might have. I just wanted to just say that I'm also a hardcore gamer, and like gaming has been a big part of my life. And like I'm not talking about mobile gaming, that is for kids. I'm talking about actual like Cyberpunk, and all, Red Dead Redemption and all. I haven't built my own. I haven't built my own desktops and all, like with parts and all, RTX 2060 and all that. I just wanted to know, this is not like a industry related question, but how did you convince your parents to allow you to play? As in, I got itna gali, and they will confiscate all my toys and not toys, like whatever. And I just want to know, how is it? How does it? How do we get it accepted in an Indian society? Because it's still seen as a very bad thing to do. It's equivalent to smoking and all.
Oh wow!
To our parents.
So I'll take the liberty of sharing my screen again, because I'm doing a talk in IIT.
Please go ahead.
So that screen says this. This is the title of my talk. Kheloge, kudoge, banoge nawab. So this is the title of my talk. So the thing is that, I didn't need to convince. I had to escape my home. So I come from a place called Jodhpur in Rajasthan, right? And we are a doctor's family. Every single person in our family is a doctor, right? And I was like, the only thing I was trained to be was a doctor, and that too neurologist. Like even in 10th standard, I had my entire career charted out and stuff. So I got selected for medicine, and I did 6 months of MBBS in Maulana Azad, and so I had to run out of Jodhpur first and be on my own. That's what I wanted to do. So I got selected, and I immediately jumped and back, and I joined Delhi College of Engineering, and that's when even my college project was a game. And I was happily gaming there. And when I was in Jodhpur also, I was used to game, but I used to observe games more than, and of course, I understand your sentiment about mobile games. Yes, I think mobile game is a great thing which happened in India because it gave way, it got a lot of people into gaming, at least started playing game. And once you get mature and stuff, you get into the deeper and more hardcore games and stuff, which happened with everybody else. And I come from the days of Contras and Pitfall and all those things and stuff. So I graduated fairly quickly to Jazz, Jackrabbit, Doom and stuff. And I actually happened to work with John Romero, who was the creator of Doom and Quack and Wolfenstein and other things and stuff. So yes, so I think that's what I had to do. But again, I don't think it's a fairly legit industry now. It's a super big. We saw some big acquisition even in India, especially in Bangalore. Play Simple acquisition, $360 million within 5 years of existence of that is a great use case where which we can talk about. But today everybody is fairly proud, and I keep meeting a lot of parents. I think gaming helps in a lot of ways, especially because you understand your decision making is super quick. Your picture memory is really awesome. Your motor skills are to the point, just like a professional sports person. So I think the world has changed immensely lately. But I come from a time where it was really, really bad. But I'm surprised that it's still you need to. But I'm pretty sure I can give you. I'll send some use cases and some success stories to Devi, who will transfer those to you. Talk about those success stories. Look at me. I'm the living example, 26 years, and I own anything and everything what Mark Zuckerberg can own and everything. He can't go beyond certain points. Of course, I can't go beyond certain point as well. So you can also do, just focus on something and fix, a passion, focus, grit, and at the end of the day, hang in there approach will definitely help you if you want to make a career in this. And I love Red Dead Redemption 2. And that is the music I was listening to while coming in the car, because I love the music of that game as well. So awesome.
Actually, yeah, even mine. I did like I used to play on integrated graphics, like Intel HD graphics. You will get like 12, 13 FPS on the games. Well, and 2 days a game to challenge game. But
Yeah.
like I eventually, yeah. So eventually I got an opportunity to build my own desktop over here. And why I wanted to do that was I saw other like YouTube का trend चालू हो गया ना, that gaming से पैसा बनाना. So I was like, oh, gaming can actually help me bring money. And finally, like, make my mom and dad understand कि अच्छा इससे भी पैसा बन सकता है, ऐसे ही नहीं फालतू के खेल.
किसके पैसा बना? If you see Jonathan Wendell, Fatality, right? He makes $5 million a year just by playing the game, right? And not just that, he has an entire range of Logitech series, a Fatality series. That is another ancillary money, which he gets. And like there are so many millionaires now in the gaming space, just playing games. Forget about making games or commenting about games and stuff like that. So sure.
Yeah. Like Shroud also gets has a lot of partnership with the Logitech because he's a FPS gamer and all.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but it did help me, you can say, start my own career, because that is the point where after getting my desktop that I was like, okay, I love to want to make my own YouTube channel or edit something. And that is how my video editing career started. Like that is what was the how do you say motivations that after seeing, especially after Red Dead Redemption, I saw that you get the real feel of being a cowboy in the olden times. And I researched a bit how they do this and all. They actually hired cinematographers, directors, and they had the camera angles they put and the aspect ratios and all. It's actually, it's like far more detailed than just making a game. It's more just, it's not just playing the game. It's about, having experience and not.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It was very nice. Thank you, Kritin, for that nice question. And thank you again, Mr. Rajat, that, for all your deliberations. It was wonderful. So I hope all our participants liked it. And we would like to have you again in many other sessions in the coming future.
Sure. Looking forward.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Okay. So coming next, so we have a session on VFX. So just a minute. Let me just stop. Okay, so we have with us Mr. Pete Draper, so who is the National Award-winning visual effects and co-founder of Mukuta VFX, and very popularly known for the work for Bahubali, RRR, and a lot of other movies. So please allow me to just read his profile for a minute so that we know him better, and then I request Mr. Pete to start with his presentation. Is it fine, Pete? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear. Can you guys hear me okay? You can hear me fine?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you. Others?
Okay,
all fine?
Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Pete Draper, co-founder at Mukuta VFX, has over 25 years of experience in the visual effects industry and more than 13 years solely in the Indian film industry, working on several high-profile blockbusters such as RRR, Bahubali, Eega, Gajini, Magadira, Enthiran, that is Robot, Kala, 2.0, Zero, and numerous others, plus international productions such as Legion for Marvel FX. He is also a VFX supervisor, trainer, and author of several revered 3ds Max books, including on Deconstructing the Element series, journalist for recognized VFX publications, external examiner for UK University CG and VFX courses, moderator, advisory board for several Indian VFX courses. As we already got to know, he is the co-founder of Mukuta, and he has a dedicated VFX facility based out of Hyderabad, India since April 20. So he have bought the initial foundations of company to 100 plus artists and a nationally and internationally recognized studio by focusing on artist development, progression, and attention to detail. Okay, yeah, so with this, I welcome you, Mr. Pete.
Thank you. I think I need to shorten that down a bit. It's a little bit too long. It's like,
yeah, please.
Oh, okay, we've got 5 minutes left in the presentation now. All right. Okay. So actually, it was 2010. It's 2010 we founded. It was quite a long time ago. So you're talking like 12 years now running this thing. Right. Okay. So I'm going to try and share the screen, and if I click on the wrong button, I apologize in advance. If I can, I hate using Teams. Teams is just my own. Hang on. Right. Okay. If I click that, you can see that, correct?
Oh yeah. So you have any video to be played?
Yeah. I'll be rolling this thing as well. So I don't know about, they were saying about this entire sharing the audio thing, which is how do we do that? Because I am complete novice when it comes to this sort of thing here.
When you share just below that, there is an option, include computer audio. There's an option there.
Okay, I believe you, but when okay, let me stop sharing. Let's try it again. Open share tray. See, I don't have that. I genuinely don't have that. I just have this big fat button here, and then I just go boink, and it just does it. So let's see what happens. If audio comes, the audio is just music anyway, so worst case, I can just talk over it. That's not a problem. Okay, right. So let's try this. Let's see what happens. So yeah, everybody see that full screen?
Yes.
Yeah, groovy. Okay. So yeah, I'm Pete Draper. I'm the co-founder of Mukuta. Like you mentioned, I'm a co-founder of the thing, and we've been running for 12 years, 12 and a half years or so now. This particular presentation, I want to go through the visual effects of RRR. We're actually started way back in around 2018 with the initial discussion with myself, Srinivas Mohan, Rajmouli, and our VFX lead, Dora Babu. So we actually were talking initially about the layout of one particular structure, one particular area of the entire space. And this is how he kind of develops, how Rajmouli tends to develop. He tends to work individually within individual layouts and structures and scenes, and has ideas with respect to visuals. So, for example, within Bahubali, when we were talking about that, it was mostly to do with things like, okay, we've got a lady with an arrow in her back next to a waterfall holding a baby. We don't know who she is. We don't know where she's come from. Even he didn't know at the time, but he had this visual in his head. He had this visual of a massive sandstone city on top of a mountain, which obviously came to Bahubali. So this thing initially was to be based upon this entire British military base, was to be based upon initially was going to be shot over at the National Defense Academy over in Pune, but because of COVID and because of restrictions and the camera angles that we wanted basically to achieve, that ended up being shelved, but not before we went through a large amount of design work based upon this central structure. So you're looking at kind of these design buildings and a lot of these structures and a lot of this architecture based upon that particular location, and also based upon this other jail, which is actually an Indian jail, but it's actually located overseas. So we're kind of fleshing out the kind of just general kind of layout and the design of the kind of general structure of the place, so that we're having an idea of, okay, we're dealing with this area, which is kind of the central portion, which is the from the main military building all the way through to the actual front gate. But we're going through and we're kind of laying things out and we're kind of fleshing things out just to get an initial discussion point. So in this particular thing, in this review, he's saying, right, okay, this is too far. The distance between the actual wall and the main gate is too far. There's lots of other things that we need to try and incorporate. These elements, like, for example, the jail areas and certain other elements within scenes at that particular point in time, which had a lot more to do with things that were occurring within that structure, which actually ended up getting shelved from the actual primary story, including one which actually involved quite an elaborate climax, which included trucks and tanks and balloons. So you can see the kind of sketches on the right-hand side here where he's talking about, okay, this truck's going to get lifted up by a balloon. It's going to get held off. The heroine, which was Jenny, was going to be climbing up this thing, and one of the guys was also in the balloon, and the rope was set on fire, and all this kind of elaborate stuff, even to the point of determining the terrain of the actual structure. So, for example, you notice here on the right-hand side, we've got this car which is being suspended off this kind of large drop. So this was rebuilt into the actual next version of the layout. So in this particular one, we had more of a kind of like hills and valleys laid out there, and each one of these buildings had some element of the story, had some part to play, apart from the big runway that we decided to throw in there for no apparent reason, but we just decided that it was nice, so let's just stick a runway in there. There was even a train line, if you notice at the front here, there was a train line with a train going past it as well. But again, all of these things were kind of superfluous. They didn't really help the story. They kind of helped the fleshing out the backstory of the place, but it didn't really help the actual advancement. So we're knowing where the hospital is, we know where the ceremonial grounds are, but key things like, for example, the temple where this big explosion was going to be, and the layout of that. So we're going from this lush green through to this dry grass where the actual fire starts. That was all starting to flesh out a little bit later on. So because this is obviously based on an actual location, we had a lot of location references. So this is actually a view from the backside of the NDA structure and NDA buildings in Pune. So we've got very, very nice references of like the foliage and the terrain set up. So we know exactly how this sort of thing is going to have to be laid out and what the aesthetics of all this kind of materials are going to be. So this goes through. Yes.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. So I don't think your slides are moving. Are you changing your slides?
Yes, I am.
Oh.
Where are you right now? Are
We
you
are
on
the
the
very
first
much
slide?
first slide, yeah.
Are you joking? Oh my good
No.
God.
I was just
Okay.
thinking, I was just waiting for the
I am changing this thing, and it is doing it. So okay, this is very weird. I apologize.
no problem, no problem.
All right, let's just rock back from this and let's see. So can you see this?
Oh
full
yeah,
screen?
this is visible now. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if I execute this, right? Can you see this full screen?
Oh, full screen is not visible to me.
Okay, now we have a problem then. Okay, so I'll have to just roll it within this thing, I think then.
Okay.
Let me just do it within
this
here.
is
Let me
better,
just
yeah.
see whether or not if I just do this, it's going to be easier. Going to be a bit more annoying, but
yeah, I think this is full screen now. Yeah. Others, please.
It is, but it's not how I kind of wanted it. I kind of wanted it like full whack kind of thing. I think Teams is just being a pain in the backside. If I go full screen on it, I think you're actually. Let me just see whether I can just let me try one thing. Let me try one thing. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. If I do this and then I switch to, can I switch to Teams? Hey, this is redonkulous. So hang on a sec. Sorry about this, guys.
No problem.
Let me just see if I can just swipe through. Is it going to let me? It's not going to let me. Okay, yeah, so this kind of puts a pin in my entire setup. Okay, we're just going to have to do it this way then. All right, I'll just gesture with the mouse instead. So where was I? Okay, so layout. I'll just skip through back here. Blah blah blah, blah blah blah. Slide. Layout. Meeting. Stuff, etc. And the layout changes because a lot of it ends up getting pinned. I've got an echo. Someone's got the speaker on. You can just mute that, please. So the layout does tend to change quite a bit because we ended up scaling a lot of it back and actually making the structures you notice here a lot larger. So what we ended up doing was bringing a lot of this NDA structure a little bit closer to the actual foreground, and then incorporating the jail and all that kind of those kind of elements right at the back side of the actual structure, which also required a scene with Beam entering and jumping over the wall and then jumping over the inner wall, which was a lower one, which is obviously when they do the kind of the weird team up thing with them on top of the shoulders and all that kind of stuff. So the actual principal layouts themselves, this is really annoying because I can't show the videos on all this now. Nothing's spinning, nothing's turning. So this is going to be a little bit problematic. So unless I do these individually, which is going to be a bit bad. We're kind of blocking out all these individual cameras. We're sorting out all these different flyovers. I think we did around about 25 of them or something like that, something crazy. So that the director had a rough layout and a rough idea what they could actually incorporate within the edit. So for introduction scenes and all those sorts of things. From that, we're fleshing out, once we got an idea of the actual principal space, we're then fleshing out all the assets. So we're building digital representations of all of the individual buildings. So this is obviously a recreation of the actual NDA building, and with a design change, obviously of the dome. The dome is slightly different here, and the top structure is slightly different here because we didn't want it to be exactly directly associated with that particular one in Pune itself. We're also building surrounding buildings. Fair few of them, in fact. There was around about 40 or so. So here's just kind of like a few selection of them, but they're kind of just rough because they're designed to be mostly viewed from a distance, apart from one or two shots, which had some more kind of higher fidelity added in there so that they could be rendered out relatively quickly and efficiently. This, FYI, was all actually built in and distributed within Blender, which is an open source 3D software and compositing package. This was actually done towards the end of the actual production pipeline. So we'd actually switched across to this particular software a little earlier on in the actual production schedule, just after what we did with the police station. So the development continued, and then we kind of like, again, finessing and getting the colors right to try and match that of the actual building versus the CG building, and the live trees versus the CG trees, and so on. And passing these across daily, because it's towards the end of the schedule, to get feedback from the director. And a few feedbacks were, we need to remove these central buildings to make more emphasis on the ceremonial area and the building itself. Personally, I would have preferred to have these in, but that was me. And also to add additional gates in here so they can open and close, which is again, we actually culled these gates and just kit bashed them in from the exterior of Scott's Palace, and then just readjusted them so they fit. So the actual final breakdown itself was very, very kind of straightforward. The principal cameras we'd already kind of blocked out, and this was around about a year and a half pre-COVID, with these final shots kind of coming out just before the release. So these got executed around about December 21, but some of the angles, like for example this one and the close-up one, this one, were actually thrown in at the last minute, because they wanted something very, very close and tight to emphasize the actual design of the building, and also to showcase it off in the trailer. So in between all of this, one of the first things we actually did for this particular film was do a post-viz based off the bridge episode where our two heroes finally meet. So what we ended up doing was, just quit my mail is just popping up here. Is to block all this thing out and take the actual shots which were designed on set and do what's called a post-viz. So a post-viz, for those of you who don't know, is a rough version of rough version of the file, just to kind of block out generally where things are going to go, making sure that things are working. In some cases, you can final the track. In this particular instance, we did pass all the tracking information across to Surprise, who did all of the final work on this. Obviously, did all the model work. They did all the final CG. But this was kind of like a rough indication of kind of back and forth, so we can see exactly how big the transitions are going to be, whether or not some of this stuff is going to work, and just generally what we're going to see in each and every single shot for composition reasons. So all these sorts of like loose decisions can be made at this particular point, and then the entire thing just gets dumped across to the principal VFX studio to block all this stuff out. So again, some of this is miniature, some of this is just rudimentary animation, which we blocked in there just to get the timing and just for composition. Bang, bang, bang. Okay. Our principal work, though, was actually within the police station episode. So that was the kind of first kind of main scene that we ended up actually working on. And for that, it was a location which we sourced, and the production team sourced just outside of Ramogi Film City. So this road at the backside here is actually the main kind of conduit road that goes from the Vijayawada Highway to the interior of Ramogi Film City. This building over here is actually another film. I think that was, it could have been Syra. I want to say Syra, could have been that. And so we're over on the right-hand side, there was shooting, I think there was shooting Saho at the time as well. So our art director, Sabu Cyril, was actually working on 4 films at RFC at the time. So we're actually calling it Sabu Film City at that particular point, because he built all of this lovely police station outpost. I actually got a question earlier on, I think it was about I think it was yesterday, on YouTube on one of our breakdowns that we posted. Why did they have a police station in the middle of nowhere? It's like, because it's an outpost, and also so the film can happen, is the answer to that question. So the actual structure itself is relatively straightforward to build, but the landscape itself is actually considerably different from the actual location which it's based off, which was up in Delhi on the outskirts. So gradually wanted to have this kind of underlying structures and ups and downs and so on. Obviously not keeping the greens that one has in these reference images, but you're keeping the similar kind of topography. So obviously you need to have to extend and recreate that, because if you look at the actual original location, it's pretty flat. So we're going to do a lot of extension work. We'll keep this initial structures around here, maybe spill out in these areas, but the rest of it, because of obviously all these fences, the trees and so on, they're not akin to this particular location. So initially we block things out. So before we go to principal shoot, we'll go with the ADs and the assistants and start staging everything up. So these are Rajmouli's ADs. You may even notice one or two of them who are actually in the film itself also. And then when it comes to actual shooting, this is the number of crowd that we're dealing with, and this is the actual kind of topography. The blue screens, you'll notice they move around a fair amount because we'll shoot and try and fill the frame as much as physically possible. In some cases, we won't have any blue screens in at all because we're going to try and fill the frame as much as we can and try and shoot lower. So we're shooting below head space so we can get away with things. In other areas, in other times, we actually have to shoot with blue mats against the sides of things, like for example here. But in these sorts of scenarios, we're actually ending up replacing the entire barbed wire on the entire fencing completely digitally, because it's actually been more expensive to roto out and key out all these little gaps than it would be to actually just replace the entire thing. So we're building barbed wire assets, we're building digital recreations of not just the environment, not just people, but also the actual barbed wire itself and the fencing and all that kind of thing. So how do we get this information? First thing we do is we do what's called a LiDAR scan. And a LiDAR scan is, in essence, a device which goes and shoots out a laser and measures the distance between that particular scanner's location and where a piece of geography that it hits, be it a building, be it a prop, be it a piece of terrain or so on. Somebody's on microphone. Can you make sure you're muted, please? So we also go around and we actually go through and we collate all the data. We collate all of the structure. Again, I can hear somebody in the background. If you can make sure that your microphone is muted, please. Someone who's just joined.
I just muted them. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. So we're going through and we're collating not only just the actual environment itself, but we're collating all the props. And the reason why we're doing that is because in some shots, we are going to have to recreate the entire police station completely. We will need to do this because of the logistics of the shooting itself. So case in point here, you'll notice that the mound and the watchtower that falls are actually not within the primary scan. They're actually quite a way away. They're actually all the way over here geographically. But in reality, when we're shooting, it needs to be over here. So because of those sorts of limitations, and they were just geographical, logistical limitations, we have to recreate the entire police station faithfully and then populate it with crowd. So how do we create the crowd? So we've got the location, we know where the land and where things need to go on, but we obviously need the assets. And the assets are taken from representations of a lot of the individuals who we actually collated on spot. So we're doing A poses with color charts, we're measuring heights, we're taking material references, not just of supporting characters, but also of our primary actors as well, including the gentleman in red who throws the rock. I mean, I don't know why you needed to go and arrest him. You could just wait for him. He'll turn up at video anytime soon anyway, so you don't need to chase after him. We're also taking references of other elements within the space. So, for example, we've also got bulls and bullet carts and all the rocks and the properties and all these sorts of things. So these are ended up being hand modeled and sculpted, and with different iterations and permutations of each one of these guys. So this is in essence the same model, just different color representations and different texture representations. And then what we'll do is we'll generate a system to mix and match these together so that each bull looks slightly different. So you don't see any kind of repetition. Same deal with the watchtowers. We had about 2 or 3 watchtowers in the space, and about 3 or 4 different types of bullock carts added with different material variations. But again, generally, it's just pretty much the same model with some small variations within the structures of the bamboo that was added. But the actual diffuse and the specs and the materials was slightly different from one to the other, just to kind of add that randomization. We're also, again, like I mentioned, recreating the entire police station. This is just a rough one. We're only coming up to here. We're not seeing the ground. The ground is a separate asset. That's the reason why it's just a little rough. But all the assets and everything else is pretty faithful, going down from not just the exteriors, but also you're dealing with all tile level based materials, but also taking into account how they actually physically created it on set. And what they did for this was these were mold panels. So we're recreating the same sorts of mold panels also. So we're trying to recreate exactly how they built stuff on set. So we're understanding the paint methods that they used, because obviously all of this is fiber. It's not real rock. It's not real stone. So all the paint work that's been done on these bricks, for example, everything is recreated the same way. So when you're trying to recreate painted fiberglass to make it look like wood, your shaders have to be painted fiberglass to make it look like wood or stone, and not actual stone, because the two finishes are totally different. So when it came to crowd distribution, the crowd itself was actually very kind of straightforward. We've done a fair amount of crowd work previously in Bahubali, and they generally kind of tend to follow the same sorts of rules. But in this case, these guys were primarily just trying to see what was going on. So your primary references are looking at things like stadium gigs, or in this case, these are festivals. So this is a festival called Glastonbury, which is a big festival with about 250,000 people who go to this one event in the UK in summer. So you can see exactly where people are looking, where people are collating, and what they're doing, what their behavior is. You notice there's nobody behind this central area here because nobody can see. They're just kind of idling around and talking. And same deal here. It's almost like a light has basically been emitted from here and is casting almost a light source. And this is in essence a shadow with a diffusion. So it almost acts like an area light with an emission.